Do you want borrowing to free you instead of hold you back? This audiobook gives clear steps to use loans in ways that build skills, income, and stability. You will hear practical actions you can take today to check terms, confidently set repayment plans that protect your time, and create simple rules to stop emotional decisions. Picture opening your phone and seeing a plan that makes sense, not a surprise that creates panic. Notice how it feels when payments fit your life and options grow instead of shrink. Along the way, learn how to pick loans that fund real returns, how to test your discipline with small commitments, and how to negotiate terms that respect your future. Stay for examples you can follow step by step and short exercises that turn ideas into daily practice. Which chapter do you need first? Reducing stress, speeding up payoff, or using debt to expand earnings? Listen through and pick what applies now, then act on it tomorrow. This is a practical guide to borrow responsibly and move forward with more confidence. Chapter 1: Adopt a borrower mindset, focused on growth and discipline. Money borrowed without discipline controls the borrower, but money borrowed with intention becomes a tool that serves growth. The first shift begins inside the mind long before any paper is signed or any amount is received. A borrower mindset focused on growth and discipline is not about being fearless with debt or avoiding it completely. It is about understanding that borrowing is a responsibility that must be guided by reason, calm judgment, and long-term thinking. When this mindset is missing, loans create stress, shame, and pressure. When it is present, loans become structured support for progress. Most people are taught to fear loans or to chase them without thought. Both paths lead to regret. Fear leads to missed opportunities and stagnation. Carelessness leads to years of stress and loss of control. A disciplined borrower stands in the middle. This person understands that borrowing is neither good nor bad by itself. It is neutral. What matters is how it is used, how it is managed, and what kind of person is doing the managing. The foundation of this mindset is personal responsibility. A disciplined borrower does not blame banks, family, or circumstances for debt outcomes. Responsibility starts with the acceptance that every loan is a choice, even when options feel limited. This acceptance removes excuses and replaces them with clarity. When a borrower accepts full ownership over borrowing decisions, thinking becomes sharper and behavior becomes more intentional. This alone changes outcomes. Growth-focused borrowing begins with self-honesty. Many people borrow to escape discomfort rather than to build something meaningful. They borrow to feel relief, status, or temporary ease. This mindset creates fragile results. Growth-focused borrowing asks different questions. Will this loan help build skills that last? Will it increase earning ability? Will it reduce future dependence? Will it create stability rather than stress? These questions require patience and maturity. They also require the ability to delay pleasure in exchange for progress. Discipline is not restriction for its own sake. Discipline is choosing what matters most over what feels easiest now. In borrowing, discipline appears in preparation, planning, and restraint. It shows up in reading terms carefully. It shows up in declining loans that do not serve a clear purpose. It shows up in choosing smaller amounts when larger ones are offered. Discipline protects future freedom. A borrower with discipline understands that lenders are businesses, not benefactors. This is not a moral judgment, but a practical truth. Lenders design products to earn profit. A disciplined borrower respects this reality and prepares accordingly. This preparation prevents emotional decisions. It prevents pressure-driven commitments. It encourages calm evaluation rather than urgency. Growth comes from calm thinking under pressure. Many borrowers fail not because the loan was too large, but because the mindset was too weak. Without discipline, spending becomes reactive. Repayments become stressful. Small setbacks feel overwhelming. A disciplined borrower anticipates difficulty and prepares for it. This preparation is not pessimism, it is realism. Realism builds resilience. When challenges appear, the disciplined borrower responds with structure, not panic. To adopt this mindset, daily habits must change. Growth-focused borrowing is supported by daily awareness of money flows. It is supported by consistent review of obligations. It is supported by the habit of asking how today's choices affect tomorrow's stability. This does not require complex systems. It requires attention. Attention is a form of discipline that compounds over time. Another key element is emotional regulation. Many poor borrowing decisions are emotional responses to pressure, comparison, or fear. A disciplined borrower trains the ability to pause before committing. This pause creates space between emotion and action. In that space, rational thought can operate. This is where growth decisions are made. Emotional borrowing creates cycles of regret. Disciplined borrowing creates patterns of confidence. A growth mindset also reframes discomfort. Paying back a loan on schedule requires consistency. It may require saying no to certain expenses. This discomfort is not a punishment, it is training. Each on-time payment strengthens self-trust. Each resisted impulse builds discipline. Over time, the borrower becomes more capable not only with money, but with life decisions. Borrowing with discipline also means understanding personal limits. Discipline includes knowing when not to borrow. It includes accepting that some goals require more preparation before financing. This restraint is a sign of strength, not weakness. Many people equate borrowing capacity with success. A disciplined borrower equates control with success. Control leads to peace. Peace supports growth. Growth-focused borrowers think in terms of systems, not events. A loan is not a single-moment decision. It is a system of payments, behaviors, and habits that will last months or years. This long view prevents impulsive choices. It also encourages building systems that support repayment, such as automatic transfers, budget tracking, and income planning. Systems reduce reliance on motivation. Discipline thrives in systems. There is also a moral element to disciplined borrowing. Keeping commitments matters. Honoring agreements builds integrity. Integrity strengthens self-respect. Self-respect reinforces discipline. This cycle benefits every area of life. Borrowing responsibly trains character. It teaches patience, follow-through, and accountability. These qualities extend far beyond finances. Growth also requires learning. A disciplined borrower commits to understanding basic financial concepts. This includes interest calculation, repayment schedules, and penalties. Knowledge reduces fear. It increases negotiating power. It improves decision quality. Learning does not require advanced education. It requires curiosity and effort. Growth begins when ignorance is replaced by understanding. Another important shift is separating identity from borrowing. A loan does not define worth. It is a tool, not a label. Discipline prevents ego from influencing borrowing decisions. Borrowing to appear successful weakens financial position. Borrowing to become capable strengthens it. This distinction is critical. Ego-driven borrowing leads to fragile outcomes. Purpose-driven borrowing builds lasting progress. A disciplined borrower also respects time. Time is the true cost of borrowing. Every payment represents future hours of effort. Growth-focused thinking respects this exchange. It asks whether the future effort required is justified by the future benefit gained. This question aligns borrowing with long-term goals rather than short-term relief. Daily reflection supports this mindset. A few minutes each day reviewing spending obligations and progress builds awareness. Awareness prevents drift. Drift leads to loss of control. Discipline anchors behavior to intention. Growth is maintained through consistent reflection, not dramatic changes. Borrowing with discipline also means planning for uncertainty. Life events can disrupt income. A growth-focused borrower acknowledges this reality and prepares buffers. This may include emergency savings or flexible repayment structures. Preparation reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves decision-making. Calm borrowers make better choices. Another often overlooked aspect is gratitude. A disciplined borrower appreciates access to capital without abusing it. Gratitude encourages responsible use. It discourages waste. It strengthens the desire to honor commitments. Gratitude is not passive. It is an active recognition of opportunity and responsibility. Growth-focused borrowing also requires courage. Saying no to unnecessary loans may create temporary discomfort or disappointment. Choosing discipline over ease requires strength. This courage is rewarded with stability and confidence. Over time, the borrower becomes less reactive and more intentional. The disciplined borrower views borrowing as a partnership with future self. Decisions made today affect future conditions. Respect for future self guides present choices. This perspective reduces regret. It aligns actions with long-term well-being. It is important to acknowledge that mistakes may still occur. Discipline does not guarantee perfection. It guarantees learning. A growth mindset treats mistakes as feedback, not failure. When errors occur, the disciplined borrower analyzes, adjusts, and improves. This response prevents repeated patterns. Growth is sustained through correction, not self-criticism. Another essential habit is documentation. Keeping records of loan terms, payment schedules, and progress builds clarity. Clarity reduces stress. Stress leads to poor decisions. Simple tracking tools support discipline. Complexity is unnecessary. Consistency matters more. Borrowing with growth in mind also influences spending behavior. Borrowed money should be treated with more care, not less. Discipline recognizes that borrowed funds carry obligation. This awareness prevents waste. It encourages allocation toward productive uses. Respect for borrowed money reinforces financial maturity. A disciplined borrower also avoids comparison. Comparing loan amounts, interest rates, or lifestyles with others creates pressure. Pressure leads to rushed decisions. Growth-focused borrowing is personal. It aligns with individual capacity, goals, and values. Comparison distracts from purpose. The Stoic perspective emphasizes control over what is within reach and acceptance of what is not. In borrowing, this means controlling preparation behavior and repayment discipline while accepting market conditions. Complaining about rates or terms without adjusting behavior is wasted energy. Discipline focuses energy on actions that matter. Borrowing wisely also involves patience. Waiting for the right time, terms, or readiness may delay gratification. This patience protects future stability. Growth often requires waiting rather than rushing. Discipline supports patience. Another key principle is simplicity. Complex borrowing arrangements increase risk. Discipline favors clarity. Clear terms, clear plans, and clear purposes reduce confusion. Simplicity strengthens execution. Borrowing should support life goals, not replace effort. A loan can accelerate progress but cannot substitute discipline. Without daily effort, borrowed money loses impact. Growth requires both capital and character. The disciplined borrower also understands opportunity cost. Every loan limits future choices until repaid. This awareness encourages selective borrowing. Selectivity preserves flexibility. Flexibility supports resilience. Resilience is built through consistent follow-through. Each payment completed strengthens belief in self-capability. This belief transfers to other challenges. Borrowing becomes training for larger responsibilities. The growth mindset also includes humility. Asking questions, seeking advice, and verifying understanding prevents costly errors. Discipline welcomes correction. Ego resists it. Growth favors humility. Borrowing with intention also requires alignment with values. If a loan supports something meaningful, effort feels purposeful. When purpose is absent, repayment feels heavy. Discipline helps maintain alignment. The disciplined borrower respects boundaries. This includes setting limits on borrowing frequency, amount, and purpose. Boundaries prevent escalation. Escalation leads to overwhelm. Growth thrives within boundaries. Daily discipline also includes monitoring emotional state. Fatigue, stress, or excitement can distort judgment. Recognizing these states and delaying decisions protects outcomes. Discipline includes self-awareness. Borrowing with growth in mind also encourages building skills alongside capital. Skills increase earning power. Increased earning power reduces repayment pressure. Discipline prioritizes skill development. The borrower mindset focused on growth treats financial pressure as feedback, not punishment. Pressure reveals weaknesses in planning or behavior. Addressing these weaknesses strengthens systems. Growth emerges from adjustment. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small disciplined actions repeated daily create stability. Large dramatic changes rarely last. Growth is gradual and sustainable. Another critical element is commitment to learning from others without copying blindly. Studying successful borrowers provides insight. Applying principles rather than patterns ensures relevance. Borrowing discipline also includes exit planning. Knowing how and when a loan will be closed creates direction. Open-ended borrowing creates anxiety. Clear closure supports peace. A disciplined borrower understands that freedom increases as obligations decrease. This awareness motivates timely repayment. Freedom is not the absence of borrowing, but the presence of control. The growth mindset reframes repayment as progress rather than loss. Each payment reduces obligation and increases ownership. This perspective sustains motivation. Borrowing with intention also builds patience with results. Growth may take time. Discipline maintains effort during slow periods. Persistence compounds results. Another practice is regular review of purpose. Circumstances change. Reviewing whether a loan still serves its purpose prevents misalignment. Discipline adapts when needed. The disciplined borrower also avoids rationalization. Justifying unnecessary borrowing weakens integrity. Honesty strengthens decision-making. Borrowing wisely requires energy management. Overextending obligations drains mental focus. Discipline protects cognitive resources. Clear mind supports better choices. Growth-focused borrowing includes planning for success. Increased income should accelerate repayment rather than inflate lifestyle. Discipline directs gains towards stability first. A stoic approach emphasizes virtue over outcome. Acting with discipline, integrity, and prudence matters regardless of short-term results. This focus builds character. Borrowing with discipline also influences relationships. Transparency and reliability build trust. Missed commitments strain connections. Growth supports relational stability. Another important habit is gratitude for progress. Acknowledging improvement sustains motivation. Discipline appreciates effort, not just outcomes. The disciplined borrower remains adaptable. When conditions change, adjustments are made without panic. Flexibility within structure supports resilience. Borrowing with growth in mind ultimately transforms identity. The borrower becomes a manager, not a victim. This identity shift empowers action. The journey begins with intention. Intention guides behavior. Behavior shapes outcome. Discipline sustains intention. Growth follows discipline. Adopting a borrower mindset focused on growth and discipline is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. Each choice reinforces or weakens it. Consistency strengthens it. The reward for this mindset is not only financial stability but self-mastery. Self-mastery extends to every area of life. Borrowing becomes a training ground for discipline, resilience, and responsibility. When borrowing is approached with respect, clarity, and intention, it becomes a tool for building rather than a source of stress. Growth-focused discipline turns obligation into opportunity. The path forward requires honesty, patience, and effort. There is no shortcut. There is steady progress. Discipline creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. This chapter establishes the foundation. Without this mindset, strategies fail. With it, even modest loans can produce meaningful growth. The decision begins now. Each future borrowing choice becomes an opportunity to practice discipline and build a stronger life. Control thoughts before signing commitments. Prepare before accepting obligations. Act with intention rather than impulse. Honor agreements with consistency. Learn from every outcome. Grow through discipline. Chapter 20. Hey, define clear goals before taking any loan. Borrowing without a clear goal is like walking in a new city without knowing where you want to go. You may move fast, but you will not arrive anywhere meaningful. Defining clear goals before taking any loan is not a technical step. It is a mental discipline that protects your energy, time, and future peace. A loan should serve a purpose that is precise, realistic, and worth the effort it will demand from your future self. Without that purpose, borrowing becomes reactive and pressure-driven. With it, borrowing becomes intentional and controlled. Many people decide to borrow based on urgency rather than clarity. Bills pile up, opportunities appear suddenly, or emotions rise and the loan feels like the only answer. This is where most long-term financial stress begins. A clear goal slows the process. It forces thought. It asks you to name exactly what this money is meant to do, not in vague terms but in practical ones. What problem will it solve? What outcome should exist because of it? When the goal is clear, the decision becomes grounded rather than emotional. A strong goal is specific. Saying the loan is for improvement or progress is not enough. Specificity creates direction. If the loan is meant to increase income, define how and when. If it is meant to remove a burden, define which one and why it matters. Clarity removes confusion. Confusion leads to misuse. Misuse leads to regret. Specific goals protect against drift. Goals must also be realistic. Borrowing with unrealistic expectations creates pressure that weakens discipline. Expecting instant results or rapid change from borrowed money sets the stage for disappointment. Realistic goals respect time, effort, and learning curves. They allow room for adjustment. They keep the borrower calm and focused rather than anxious and reactive. Defining goals also means understanding priorities. Not all needs are equal. Some goals support long-term stability while others only provide temporary relief. A disciplined borrower learns to rank goals honestly. Which outcome will strengthen future choices? Which one reduces dependency? Which one builds capacity rather than consumption? This ranking prevents borrowing for low-impact reasons while high-impact needs remain unmet. Another important element is writing the goal down. This simple act turns thought into commitment. It creates a reference point. When temptation arises or spending pressure increases, the written goal brings focus back. It reminds you why the loan exists. Memory is unreliable under stress. Written clarity anchors behavior. Goals should include a clear time frame. An undefined timeline weakens accountability. When you know when a goal should be achieved, progress can be measured. Measurement encourages discipline. It also reveals early if adjustments are needed. Time awareness transforms borrowing from a vague obligation into a managed process. A useful practice is to define success before borrowing. What does success look like once the loan has done its job? Is it increased monthly income, reduced expenses, completed training, or stabilized cash flow? Defining success allows you to evaluate whether the loan is working. Without this definition, you may continue borrowing without knowing whether it helped at all. Goals must also align with personal values. Borrowing for something that conflicts with values creates inner tension. That tension drains energy and weakens motivation to repay. When a goal aligns with what truly matters, effort feels meaningful. Meaning sustains discipline during difficult periods. Defining clear goals also involves acknowledging trade-offs. Every loan limits future flexibility until repaid. A clear goal includes acceptance of what must be postponed or reduced. This honesty prevents resentment later. It prepares the mind for sacrifice. Sacrifice accepted in advance feels lighter than sacrifice discovered later. Another powerful practice is stress testing the goal. Ask what happens if results take longer than expected. Ask whether the goal still makes sense under less ideal conditions. This exercise strengthens resilience. It prevents collapse when reality differs from hope. Clear goals also guide loan selection. Different goals require different loan structures. Without clarity, borrowers choose based on availability rather than suitability. With clarity, they can match terms to purpose. This alignment reduces strain and improves outcomes. Goals should be independent of external approval. Borrowing to meet expectations, impress others, or maintain appearances weakens motivation. External validation fades quickly. Internal purpose endures. Goals rooted in personal growth provide lasting direction. It is also important to separate goals from wishes. A wish hopes for improvement without a plan. A goal includes action, responsibility, and follow-through. Borrowing should support goals, not wishes. This distinction protects against unrealistic borrowing. Another aspect is defining what the loan will not be used for. Boundaries prevent leakage. Leakage is small, unplanned spending that erodes purpose. When boundaries are defined, discipline is easier. When they are absent, impulse takes control. Clear goals reduce anxiety. Anxiety often comes from uncertainty. When purpose is defined, uncertainty decreases. Reduced anxiety improves decision quality. Calm borrowers manage obligations better than anxious ones. Goals should also consider personal capacity. Energy, time, and focus are limited. Borrowing to pursue too many goals at once overwhelms systems. One clear priority produces better results than scattered effort. It is helpful to imagine explaining the loan decision to a trusted person. This exercise reveals clarity or lack of it. If the explanation feels vague, the goal likely is too. Clarity withstands explanation. Confusion avoids it. Another valuable habit is revisiting the goal after the loan is taken. Goals are not static. Circumstances change. Revisiting ensures alignment remains. Adjustment is a sign of discipline, not failure. Clear goals also strengthen repayment motivation. When effort is connected to a meaningful outcome, persistence increases. Payments feel purposeful rather than burdensome. Purpose fuels consistency. Goals should include learning outcomes when possible. Borrowing that supports learning builds long-term value. Learning remains even after repayment. This perspective shifts focus from short-term cost to long-term gain. Defining goals also protects against overborrowing. When purpose is clear, excess becomes obvious. Borrowing only what is needed preserves margin for error. Margin supports resilience. Another important step is checking whether the goal can be achieved without borrowing or with less borrowing. Discipline explores alternatives first. Borrowing becomes a tool, not a default response. Clear goals encourage patience. Knowing what you are working toward makes waiting tolerable. Patience reduces impulsive additions to debt. Goals must be reviewed against reality. Regular reflection keeps effort aligned. Reflection prevents drift. Defining goals before borrowing is an act of self-respect. It signals that future effort matters. It honors time, energy, and focus. This practice also builds confidence. Making intentional decisions strengthens trust in self-judgment. Confidence improves future decisions. Clarity transforms borrowing from a reactive act into a strategic choice. Strategy requires thinking beyond immediate relief. It requires seeing borrowing as part of a larger plan. When goals are clear, borrowing becomes quieter. There is less emotional noise. Decisions feel grounded. Stress decreases. The disciplined borrower returns to the goal whenever uncertainty appears. The goal becomes a compass. Without it, movement continues but direction is lost. Clear goals also simplify communication with lenders, partners, or family. Transparency builds trust. Trust reduces conflict. Another benefit is reduced regret. Regret often comes from unclear intention. When purpose is defined, outcomes are easier to accept even if imperfect. Defining goals is not about perfection. It is about intention. Intention guides behavior even when conditions change. This chapter emphasizes that borrowing begins before money arrives. It begins with thought, clarity, and honest evaluation. Take time to define what you want the loan to achieve. Write it plainly. Test it honestly. Commit to it fully. Borrowing with clear goals protects future peace. It strengthens discipline. It supports growth. Without clarity, loans control behavior. With clarity, behavior controls loans. This practice sets the foundation for every step that follows. Clear goals turn borrowing into a deliberate act of self-development rather than a reaction to pressure. The work done before borrowing determines the experience after. Clarity now prevents struggle later. Define the goal first. Then decide whether borrowing truly serves it. Chapter 3T. Calculate true costs to avoid debt stress. Debt becomes stressful when its real weight is hidden. Many borrowers focus only on the amount they receive and the monthly payment they are told they can afford. Stress appears later when reality reveals what was ignored at the beginning. Calculating true costs is not about fear. It is about clarity. Clarity removes surprise. Surprise creates anxiety. When the full cost is known in advance, the mind stays calm and decisions stay controlled. True cost means more than interest. It includes time, effort, reduced flexibility, and emotional pressure. A borrower who understands this sees a loan as a long commitment rather than a quick solution. This perspective changes behavior immediately. It encourages caution, planning, and respect for obligation. Interest is the most visible cost, but it is rarely understood deeply. Many people accept percentages without translating them into real numbers. A disciplined borrower calculates how much will be paid in total by the final payment. Seeing the full amount creates awareness. Awareness influences restraint. It becomes easier to decide whether the outcome is worth the effort required. Fees are another hidden source of stress. Processing charges, late penalties, insurance requirements, and administrative costs quietly increase burden. These costs often appear small individually but compound over time. Calculating them up front prevents frustration later. Discipline means reading carefully and asking questions before committing. Time is a cost that is often ignored. Each loan ties future income to past decisions. This reduces freedom. Understanding how long income will be committed allows better planning. It also encourages aligning loan length with purpose. Short-term goals should not be tied to long obligations. Another real cost is opportunity limitation. While a loan is active, future choices become constrained. This may affect career decisions, lifestyle options, or emergency response. Recognizing this cost prevents overcommitment. Flexibility is a form of wealth that discipline protects. Debt stress often comes from underestimating monthly impact. Payments may seem manageable on paper, but feel heavy in daily life. Calculating true cost means comparing payments to realistic income, not optimistic projections. Conservative estimates reduce pressure. Pressure erodes discipline. Variable costs matter too. Interest rate changes, inflation, or income fluctuations can alter repayment experience. A disciplined borrower considers these possibilities. This is not pessimism, it is preparation. Preparation supports calm responses when conditions change. Another cost is mental load. Carrying debt requires attention, tracking, and emotional energy. Multiple loans increase complexity. Complexity increases stress. Calculating this cost encourages simplicity. Fewer obligations are easier to manage. True cost also includes the effect on savings. Repayments reduce capacity to build reserves. This trade-off must be understood. Borrowing without considering its impact on safety buffers increases vulnerability. Discipline values stability. Calculating cost also means understanding repayment structure. Front-loaded interest, delayed principal reduction, or balloon payments change experience. Knowing how payments are applied prevents false expectations. Expectations shape emotional response. Many borrowers focus on minimum payments. Minimum payments extend duration and increase total cost. Calculating the difference between minimum and accelerated repayment reveals choice. Choice empowers control. Another overlooked cost is dependency. Relying on borrowed funds can weaken self-reliance if repeated without growth. Understanding this cost encourages borrowing that builds capacity rather than habit. Calculating true cost also protects sleep. Worry often comes from unknowns. Known obligations feel manageable. Unknown ones feel threatening. Clarity reduces mental noise. A useful practice is to map repayment against daily life. How many work hours fund each payment? This translation grounds numbers in reality. It creates respect for time and effort. True cost includes emotional tolerance. Some people handle long obligations well. Others feel constant pressure. Knowing personal limits prevents self-conflict. Discipline respects temperament. It is also important to calculate cost against alternatives. Could slower progress without borrowing produce less stress? Could partial borrowing achieve similar results? Comparison clarifies value. Calculating cost should include worst reasonable scenarios, reduced income, delayed results, or unexpected expenses. Planning for these reduces fear. Fear leads to avoidance or denial. Discipline confronts reality early. Another hidden cost is momentum loss. High repayment pressure can reduce ability to pursue new opportunities. Understanding this cost helps balance ambition with capacity. True cost calculation is an act of self-care. It protects mental health by reducing uncertainty. Calm supports better decisions. Borrowers who calculate thoroughly experience fewer regrets. Regret often comes from surprise. Surprise disappears with preparation. This practice also strengthens negotiation. Knowing full cost provides leverage. Informed borrowers ask better questions and accept fewer unfavorable terms. Calculating cost also clarifies purpose. If the cost feels heavy relative to benefit, purpose may be weak. This reflection saves future strain. The Stoic approach values reason over impulse. Calculating cost is reason in action. It removes emotion from decision-making. Another benefit is confidence. Knowing obligations fully creates inner steadiness. Confidence improves follow-through. Debt stress often manifests physically through tension, fatigue, and distraction. Many of these symptoms trace back to unclear commitments. Clarity alleviates them. True cost awareness encourages pacing. Not all growth needs speed. Sustainable progress often produces better results. Calculating cost also teaches patience. Seeing long horizons discourages impulsive additions. Patience preserves stability. This discipline builds long-term thinking. Long-term thinking improves life outcomes beyond finance. The habit of calculation extends to other areas. Time commitments, relationships, and projects benefit from similar clarity. Borrowing wisely is not about avoiding cost, but about choosing it consciously. Conscious choice reduces resentment. True cost calculation also includes emotional payoff. If effort aligns with values, burden feels lighter. If not, it feels heavy. This awareness guides choice. Another aspect is exit strategy. Knowing total cost encourages planning early repayment when possible. Early exit increases freedom. Calculating cost helps set realistic expectations. Realistic expectations reduce disappointment. This practice should be repeated before every borrowing decision. Consistency strengthens discipline. Even small loans deserve full calculation. Small obligations accumulate. The mind prefers simplicity. Uncalculated debt creates complexity. Calculation restores order. A disciplined borrower treats numbers as information, not intimidation. Understanding replaces fear. This chapter emphasizes that peace comes from clarity. Clarity comes from calculation. Before borrowing, calculate fully. Include money, time, flexibility, and emotional load. When the true cost is acceptable, proceed calmly. When it is not, step back. Debt stress is not inevitable. It is often the result of incomplete thinking. Complete thinking produces calmer outcomes. Calculate first, decide second. Commit only when the full picture is clear. This habit transforms borrowing into a controlled, deliberate act rather than a source of ongoing tension. Clarity today protects peace tomorrow. Know the cost. Carry only what you choose. Chapter 40. Choose loans that increase skills, income, or assets. Not all loans are equal in their effect on your life. Some loans quietly weaken your future while others strengthen it. The difference is not the interest rate or the lender. The difference is what the loan produces after the money is spent. Loans that increase skills, income, or assets move your life forward. Loans that only satisfy comfort or appearance pull future effort into the past. Learning to choose the right kind of loan is a turning point in personal growth. A growth-focused borrower does not ask how easy it is to get a loan. The real question is what the loan will leave behind once the money is gone. Money itself disappears quickly. What remains is either improved ability, increased earning power, or ownership of something that holds value. If nothing lasting remains, the loan becomes a weight rather than a support. Skills are one of the strongest returns on borrowed money. Skills stay with you long after the loan is repaid. They cannot be taken away easily, and they adapt to changing conditions. A loan used to build a skill increases personal capacity. Capacity improves options. Options reduce dependence. This chain strengthens resilience. When evaluating a skill-based loan, the focus should be practical application. Will this skill realistically improve your ability to earn or solve problems? Will it be used regularly? Will it remain relevant over time? Discipline requires honest answers. Borrowing to acquire skills without a clear path to use them creates frustration. Borrowing to build skills that integrate into daily work builds momentum. Income-focused loans support growth when they help generate or stabilize cash flow. This may include tools, equipment, education, or systems that directly support earning. The key is direct connection. The loan must shorten the distance between effort and income. Vague connections weaken results. Clear connections strengthen accountability. Assets differ from consumption. An asset is something that holds value or produces benefit over time. This benefit may be income, utility, or stability. An asset does not need to be perfect. It needs to contribute. Borrowing to acquire assets makes sense only when maintenance and use are understood. An unused asset becomes a liability. Discipline requires planning for use, not just acquisition. Growth-focused borrowing also considers scalability. A skill that can grow with effort produces compounding benefits. An income source that can expand over time increases return. An asset that improves efficiency supports progress. Scalability magnifies the impact of borrowing. Another important filter is durability. Skills and assets should last beyond short trends. Borrowing for something temporary weakens value. Durability supports long-term thinking. Long-term thinking reduces regret. A disciplined borrower separates desire from function. Desire seeks immediate satisfaction. Function serves long-term benefit. Loans chosen for function strengthen stability. Loans chosen for desire create pressure. It is also important to consider personal alignment. A skill that does not match interest or temperament may not be developed fully. An asset that does not fit lifestyle may not be maintained. Alignment improves follow-through. Follow-through determines outcome. Loans that increase income or assets should simplify life rather than complicate it. Complexity increases stress. Stress reduces focus. Focus is needed to maximize returns. Discipline favors simplicity. Borrowing for growth often requires patience. Results may not appear immediately. Skills take time to master. Assets take time to produce value. Patience sustains effort during early stages. Impatience leads to abandonment. Another key consideration is replacement effect. Does the loan replace effort or enhance it? Loans that replace effort weaken discipline. Loans that enhance effort strengthen it. Growth comes from engagement, not avoidance. Income-generating loans should be evaluated based on net effect. Increased revenue must exceed increased obligations. Gross numbers can mislead. Discipline looks at what remains after costs. Asset-based loans should include realistic maintenance planning. Ownership carries responsibility. Responsibility requires time, money, and attention. Ignoring this creates strain. Preparation prevents it. A useful practice is to imagine the situation 2 years after the loan is repaid. What remains? If the answer includes improved ability, ownership, or income stability, the loan likely served growth. If the answer is nothing but memory, caution is needed. Growth-oriented borrowing also reduces emotional volatility. When loans support capability, repayments feel purposeful. Purpose reduces resentment. Resentment leads to avoidance. Choosing the right loan requires rejecting many offers. Availability does not equal suitability. Discipline includes saying no. Saying no preserves energy. Another consideration is transferability. Skills that can be applied across roles increase resilience. Assets that can be sold or adapted preserve flexibility. Flexibility supports confidence. Borrowing to increase skills also increases self-respect. Investing in capability signals belief in future self. This belief strengthens motivation. Income-focused loans should be tied to measurable outcomes. Measurement supports accountability. Accountability improves discipline. Assets should be evaluated based on realistic use frequency. Under-used assets drain resources. Honest assessment prevents waste. A growth-focused borrower also considers risk concentration. Borrowing heavily for a single fragile income source increases vulnerability. Diversification reduces pressure. Another factor is learning curve. Some skills require long development periods. Borrowing should match learning speed. Misalignment creates stress. Choosing growth loans also improves decision quality over time. Experience builds judgment. Judgment improves outcomes. The Stoic perspective values what strengthens character and capacity. Skills, income, and assets strengthen independence. Independence supports freedom. Borrowing for growth also encourages structured effort. Structure reduces chaos. Chaos drains energy. Loans that build assets often require stewardship. Stewardship builds responsibility. Responsibility strengthens character. A disciplined borrower also considers whether a loan accelerates an existing path or creates a new one. Acceleration of an existing path is often safer. New paths require deeper evaluation. Income-increasing loans should reduce reliance on future borrowing. If borrowing creates ongoing dependency, caution is needed. Another important aspect is cost recovery timeline. How long until benefits offset costs? Long timelines require patience and stability. Growth-focused borrowing aligns with identity development. Becoming someone who builds capability changes self-perception. Choosing loans wisely also improves relationships. Financial stability reduces conflict. This approach does not eliminate risk. It manages it. Managed risk supports progress. Borrowing for assets or skills is not about chasing wealth. It is about building foundation. Foundation supports freedom of choice. When evaluating a loan, ask what it builds. If it builds nothing lasting, it likely costs more than it gives. Discipline requires resisting convenience. Growth often requires effort. Loans should work like tools. Tools amplify effort. They do not replace it. This mindset transforms borrowing into an investment in self rather than a temporary escape. Choose loans that leave you stronger than before. Stronger skills, stronger income, or stronger ownership. Strength compounds. Weakness accumulates. The decision to borrow is a decision about the future self. Choose options that expand future capability. When loans are chosen with this discipline, they support progress rather than stress. Borrow to build, not to consume. Build what lasts. Let borrowed money serve growth, not comfort. This practice protects time, energy, and peace. Choose loans that move life forward in measurable, lasting ways. Chapter 50. Build credit responsibly through timely payments and planning. Credit shapes access to opportunity, and the way it is built matters more than the total you owe. Building a reliable credit profile starts with a plan and follows through with consistent behavior that is simple to practice yet powerful over time. Treat this process as training for responsible choices rather than a technical contest to be won. Small, steady actions accumulate into a trustworthy record that opens doors and reduces financial friction. Begin by learning what influences credit evaluations in straightforward terms. Payment history is the most important signal, and missed dates create lasting harm, while punctual payments steadily improve standing. The portion of available credit being used signals restraint and risk management, so keeping balances low compared to limits shows control. Lenders also look at how long accounts have been active, because longer records demonstrate stable behavior. Mixing different types of credit responsibly can show adaptability, but taking on many new accounts at once can raise red flags. Checking your own credit report does not harm your profile, and it offers the clarity needed to act confidently. Make on-time payments an unbreakable habit. Set up automatic transfers for recurring obligations so deadlines are met without relying on memory alone. When cash is tight, move money into a designated account a few days before the bill is due to avoid processing delays. If a payment will be late, call the lender immediately to request an accommodation rather than waiting and hoping. Early communication often reduces fees and preserves your record. Keep a calendar visible either on paper or an app and review it each morning so obligations remain present in daily decisions. Keep credit usage low and predictable. Aim to use a fraction of the credit available rather than treating limits as spending targets. If a card shows a high balance relative to its limit, request a temporary increase in the limit or pay down the balance before the statement closes to lower reported utilization. Consider making multiple small payments throughout the month to keep reported balances modest while still meeting necessary expenses. When possible, rotate spending across cards evenly to prevent any single account from appearing overused. Choose tools that match your situation. For beginners, a secured card that requires a deposit offers controlled exposure while building a payment history. Becoming an authorized user on a trusted family member's account can add positive history without taking on direct responsibility for a full account. For those with steady income, installment loans used for clear purposes can diversify the record. Always confirm that the account reports to major credit agencies, because the point of these actions is to create documented evidence of reliability. Plan for surprises by creating a buffer. Even a small reserve covering 1 or 2 months of scheduled payments prevents a temporary setback from turning into a long-term mark against your record. Saving for irregular expenses such as repairs or medical bills keeps you from relying on revolving credit for emergencies. When reserves are low, prioritize rebuilding them, because peace of mind reduces the odds of stress-driven mistakes. Monitor credit reports regularly and review each line item carefully. Mistakes occur, and inaccurate negative entries can drag down a profile for months if left uncorrected. If an error is found, gather supporting documents and submit a dispute promptly. Follow up until the correction is visible. Monitoring also reveals identity theft early, so unusual accounts or inquiries can be addressed before damage compounds. When opening new accounts, be deliberate. Each hard inquiry and new line can lower short-term scores while the account matures. Only add credit when the purpose is clear and the timing aligns with your broader plan. Opening a new account to chase a promotional rate or reward without a strong reason often produces unnecessary complexity. Maintain a lean portfolio of accounts that are actively managed. Negotiate terms when it makes sense. Lenders value customers who communicate. A call to request a lower interest rate or to remove a late fee may succeed, especially if the rest of the history is positive. If a hardship occurs, proactively request a modified payment plan. Many institutions prefer adjusting terms temporarily over triggering costly collections. Be prepared to explain circumstances clearly and to offer a reasonable repayment proposal. Use credit to leverage growth, not to mask lifestyle. Borrowing to fund education, training, or productive tools that increase earning ability is a purposeful use of credit. Buying status items with borrowed funds creates pressure and rarely improves financial resilience. Align credit use with measurable outcomes and revisit whether the debt is supporting a meaningful objective. Keep older accounts open when they serve you. Closing the oldest card can shorten average account age and increase utilization ratios if balances shift. If a card has no annual fee, keep it active with minimal recurring charges that you pay immediately. This keeps the history intact and the credit mix diversified without introducing meaningful risk. Track performance with clear metrics. Note the date when balances were last reduced below a chosen threshold and celebrate the consistency of on-time payments. Measure utilization each month and aim for steady improvement rather than dramatic swings. Recording progress makes the abstract concept of credit tangible and cultivates momentum. Be mindful of co-signing. Supporting another person's application can help them, but also places your record at risk if payments are missed. Only co-sign when there is absolute clarity about responsibility and a concrete agreement for handling the obligation. Consider alternatives that share support without full legal liability. When transitioning from smaller credit to larger obligations, take the same disciplined approach. Mortgage and auto borrowing require longer-term planning and different risk assessments, but the fundamentals remain identical: timely fulfillment, appropriate utilization of available capacity, and realistic alignment with income. Run scenarios that show how changes in rates or income would influence monthly capacity before committing to long-term contracts. Cultivate honest communication in relationships around shared finances. Clear agreements about who pays what and how unexpected events are handled prevent misunderstandings that can create missed payments. If accounts are jointly held, agree on a monitoring routine so both parties remain informed and accountable. Practice restraint in the face of new offers. Pre-approved or promotional credit can feel flattering, but the true cost often surfaces later. Treat offers as choices rather than rewards, and let your plan determine whether taking new credit is sensible. If a promotional incentive improves a plan, accept it, otherwise decline without guilt. Keep learning steadily. Read straightforward guides about how scores are calculated and what specific actions cause changes. Understanding mechanisms demystifies the process and reduces anxiety about minor fluctuations. When knowledge is applied patiently, the results follow predictably. Finally, adopt a long-horizon view. Credit is a public record of behavior, and its value increases as it reflects years of responsible action. Short-term flukes matter little when there is a consistent pattern of care and commitment. Slow, continuous improvement beats dramatic but unstable maneuvers. Building solid credit is a form of personal reliability made visible. It is not an end in itself, but a reflection of habits practiced consistently. Plan deliberately, automate what can be automated, monitor what must be watched, and adjust when life shifts. Over time, the modest daily actions that support timely payments and thoughtful planning produce a quiet confidence and practical freedom that realigned priorities make possible. Chapter 6c. Borrow smaller amounts to test discipline and confidence. Start with the smallest possible test that forces real behavior and reveals how reliably obligations are met. A small loan acts like a controlled experiment where consequences are limited but lessons are real. When the amount is modest, the psychological pressure is manageable and the real task becomes proving that schedules can be followed, budgets can be kept, and priorities remain steady under ordinary life strain. This approach shifts borrowing from gamble to training exercise. Choose a simple instrument for the first trial that reports to credit systems if building credit is part of the aim. A tiny personal loan, a credit builder account, or a secured card with a low deposit provides clear records and creates a real payment rhythm without large exposure. Select terms that are straightforward and free of hidden riders so the practice focuses on behavior rather than on navigating complex conditions. Before accepting any small loan, map out a repayment calendar and match it to predictable cash flows. Move the payment date if necessary to align with paydays so transfers are automatic rather than improvised. Set up a separate envelope or sub account labeled clearly for this repayment so the money cannot be accidentally spent. When the transfer is scheduled and the money is segregated, the habit becomes more automatic and less vulnerable to distraction. Turn the experience into measurable feedback by selecting a handful of metrics to track. Track on time percentage, the gap between paycheck and payment day, the number of times the buffer dips below a safety threshold, and a simple stress rating on a scale from 1 to 10 each week. These figures translate subjective feelings into objective signals. When the numbers remain healthy, the trial succeeded. When they falter, adjust the plan and repeat the experiment at the same size until reliable improvement appears. Use the first small loan to test discipline under different conditions. Simulate unexpected events such as a delayed income or an unplanned expense and observe reactions. Practice the contingency flows you will use on a larger obligation. If the plan requires borrowing from another source or postponing non-essential spending, make that explicit and observe whether those steps are followed without excuses. Rehearsing responses prepares you for real disruptions so future borrowing does not unravel under stress. Make clarity about purpose non-negotiable. Even a small test loan must have a defined objective, such as building a credit record, paying for a short course, or buying a piece of equipment that directly supports work. When purpose is vague, the behavior tested is also vague. Purpose gives meaning to each payment and strengthens the willingness to follow through when small inconveniences arise. Limit the number of simultaneous obligations while testing. One small loan plus daily responsibilities is a clean learning environment. Multiple new debts confuse priorities and dilute attention. Keep the experiment focused on verifying a single capacity before adding complexity. Be rigorous about fees and penalties. A tiny loan with disproportionate fees defeats the concept of testing behavior at low cost. Calculate every potential charge before accepting the agreement and ensure that the worst reasonable outcome still leaves the experiment worthwhile. If small fees dominate the cost, look for alternate products or delay the trial. Document each decision and result. Keep a concise ledger showing dates, amounts, sources, and outcomes. Write a short reflection after every payment describing what worked, what threatened failure, and what adjustments were made. These notes become a compact manual of personal financial behavior and a source of insight that a single memory cannot reliably hold. Treat missed targets as data, not disgrace. When a payment is late, analyze why without self-judgment and note the precise cause, whether it was timing, confusion, unexpected bills, or emotional avoidance. Then design a specific response that would prevent that cause from recurring, such as moving the payment date, increasing the buffer, or automating the transfer earlier in the month. Repeat the experiment with the same small amount until the corrective action reliably stops the failure mode. Slowly increase responsibility only when consistent success is clearly demonstrated. Use a graduated rule, such as adding no more than 20 to 30% to the tested obligation after 3 consecutive months of perfect on-time performance and stable buffer levels. This incremental approach builds confidence while limiting the chance of a single mistake expanding into a habit of overreach. Use small loans to practice communication around money. If the loan affects household cash flows, inform affected parties early and agree on how unexpected needs will be handled. Clear agreements about roles and fallback plans prevent blame and reduce the risk of missed payments stemming from confusion at home. Adopt a policy for no surprise increases. If a lender offers a convenient option to extend more credit or a promotional upsell, decline until the test regimen proves robust. Growth in borrowing capacity should follow demonstrated reliability, not impulse or flattering offers. Consider the psychological signals that come with size. Small obligations keep anxiety low and make the reward of success immediate. Large sums produce symbolic pressure and often trigger avoidance behaviors that are harder to correct. Using small amounts changes the internal narrative from fear to competence, which is the core of building lasting confidence. Practice generosity toward the process of repayment. Celebrate small milestones such as a first completed cycle or a month without touching the repayment buffer. These small recognitions reinforce identity change from someone who avoids responsibility to someone who follows through. The habit of acknowledging progress is a practical tool that stabilizes new behavior. Pair the repayment experiment with skill building when possible. If the borrowed funds purchased training, set a modest, measurable outcome for how that training will be applied in the next 90 days. If the loan funded a tool, set a usage target and track whether the tool directly contributes to income or productivity. Linking borrowing to clear action prevents drifting into justification without performance. Avoid co-signing as a first test because it creates moral hazard and transfers control to others. The goal of the small loan is to measure personal discipline, not to provide a stopgap for someone else's risk profile. If co-signing is truly necessary, make formal plans for oversight, communication, and contingency responsibility so the social trust does not collapse into financial harm. Use automated alerts and a simple dashboard on a phone to keep the experiment visible. A one-line summary each week showing balance, due buffer level, and a green, yellow, or red indicator reduces cognitive load while keeping accountability present. Simplicity in monitoring sustains attention over months. When the trial shows repeatable success, document the exact conditions that made it possible and replicate them deliberately before scaling. Keep the same repayment dates, the same buffer rules, and the same contingency actions. Scaling without preserving structure invites regression. Consider borrowing from personal networks only with clear written terms when small amounts are involved. Informal loans can be flexible, but human relationships make missed payments more painful. Written agreements reduce misunderstanding and preserve dignity for both parties. Measure the impact of the small loan on overall mental clarity and freedom. If the presence of the obligation continually distracts and creates anxiety, even when payments are on time, it may indicate a low tolerance for debt and suggest alternative paths to progress. Respecting emotional bandwidth is a form of discipline as important as financial calculation. Use this practice to build a predictable sequence of trust with yourself. Each successfully repaid obligation expands the range of decisions you can safely make and increases the options that will be available without panic. This internal trust becomes a resource comparable to savings or credit limits. Keep in view a clear exit strategy even for small experiments. Know exactly how the loan will be closed and whether any residual obligations such as final fees or reporting exist. Closing efficiently prevents lingering administrative friction from turning a completed experiment into an extended burden. When the system is proven, re-evaluate the kinds of loans that make sense to expand into. Use the same testing mindset on larger instruments and translate prior metrics into new thresholds appropriate for bigger commitments. Do not assume that success with a small secured card directly equates to readiness for longer-term installment loans without repeating the verification process. Finally, combine patience with humility. Progress in financial behavior is often gradual and punctuated by setbacks. Maintain curiosity about personal reactions to obligation and be willing to iterate on rules and structures. The aim is to cultivate reliable patterns that protect future choices rather than to race toward borrowing capacity. A deliberate sequence of controlled small loans produces two results: the development of real discipline and the evidence that discipline exists. Both are necessary before taking on larger risks. This method turns borrowing from a point of vulnerability into a stepwise path of capacity building. Chapter 70. Create a repayment plan before signing anything. Before any signature or handshake, treat the loan as a contract between your present choices and your future life. Committing to borrow without a clear repayment roadmap hands control of your days to uncertain schedules and outside forces. A repayment plan created in advance is a practical promise to your future self that transforms unknown obligation into a manageable sequence of actions. It is not fancy paperwork. It is a concrete map showing when money will move where and what you will do if the map needs revision. Start by turning every term in the loan offer into a date and number you can see and feel. Convert annual rates into the exact monthly amount you will pay. If the offer lists an annual percentage rate, calculate how many currency units will leave your account each month for the life of the loan. For example, if a loan requires a monthly payment of $200, then write that exact figure down and place it beside the calendar date it will be withdrawn. Paper numbers become manageable when they are tied to daily life rather than abstract percentages. Next, build a monthly cash flow schedule that includes the loan payment as a fixed line item. List all reliable income sources and all recurring outflows before inserting the new loan payment. The goal is to see whether the new obligation fits comfortably into existing flows or whether adjustments are required. If the math shows stress immediately, then the loan is not a neutral addition, but a new constraint to be planned around. A repayment plan deals with this early by either adjusting terms, choosing a different product, or changing spending and saving patterns in advance. Decide how the payment will be made and create a single point of automation for it. Automatic transfers remove reliance on memory and character alone. Schedule the transfer for a day or two after your income arrives rather than on the due date, so timing issues and bank processing do not become accidental late payments. If your paycheck date is variable, pick a conservative buffer such as 5 business days after the earliest possible deposit. Automation reduces avoidable error and preserves the clean record you will need later. Design a buffer that protects the repayment plan. A buffer is not a vague idea of savings, but a specific liquid amount reserved exclusively for loan payments for a set number of months. Choose the size based on realistic worst-case scenarios. For an entry-level buffer, cover 1 month of payments. For higher-risk situations, cover 3 months. This buffer prevents one temporary shock from turning into a long-term credit problem. Create triggers and actions for 3 scenarios: normal, strained, and emergency. Define what each means in your situation. Normal might be on-time payment with buffer intact. Strained could mean buffer falls below 50% or unexpected expense appears. Emergency might be job loss or medical expense. For every trigger, specify exactly what you will do. For example, if the buffer drops below half, you will pause discretionary spending, reduce variable costs by a set percentage, and contact the lender to request a short forbearance if necessary. When concrete actions replace vague worry, you stay calm and act effectively. Plan for additional principal payments when cash flow allows. A repayment plan that includes optional extra contributions changes the economic outcome significantly. Calculate how an extra fixed monthly sum or occasional lump payments would shorten the loan and reduce total interest. Even modest additional amounts can shave months off the term. Decide a realistic extra contribution amount and treat it as a bonus allocation rather than a contingent luxury, so you can apply it without hesitation when funds permit. Understand prepayment rules and fees before committing. Some contracts charge for early repayment or include conditions that alter the benefit of extra payments. If prepayment is penalized, factor that into your plan and either choose a different product or negotiate terms. Knowing the exit options upfront prevents later regret. Set milestones that show progress beyond the monthly transaction. Pick visible markers such as reducing the balance by 10% or completing the first quarter of payments without touching the buffer. Celebrate these milestones in small ways that reinforce the habit of reliability rather than in ways that create new obligations. Milestones keep motivation steady because they convert distant payoff into tangible progress. Calculate scenarios using conservative assumptions. Model what the repayment timeline looks like if income falls by a particular percentage or if interest rates shift for a variable rate loan. Choose values that are reasonably pessimistic, not sensationally catastrophic. Seeing that the plan still holds under these scenarios increases confidence. If the plan fails under plausible stress, then act before signing, either by resizing the loan, modifying the term, or increasing the buffer. Document the repayment plan plainly and store it where it can be accessed quickly. A single-page summary that lists payment date, payment amount, buffer level, milestones, and trigger actions is more useful than pages of notes. Keep a digital copy and a printed copy if it helps reduce friction. Accessibility matters because plans are only effective when consulted and referred to repeatedly. Build accountability into the plan. Decide who will be informed about progress and what form that accountability will take. It can be a weekly review with yourself, a short message to a trusted friend, or an automatic monthly balance update you send to an accountability partner. Externalizing a portion of responsibility increases follow-through without transferring control to someone else. Clarify the tax and legal implications of the loan. Some loans affect taxable income or may require guarantees that have legal consequences. Verify whether interest is tax-deductible in your jurisdiction and whether any collateral or personal guarantees are attached. Understanding this dimension prevents surprises that can derail repayment when the tax year arrives or when covenants are triggered. Choose a repayment method that matches how you earn. If income is irregular, prefer a plan that allows seasonal buffering or flexible prepayments. If income is stable, fixed payments are efficient. Matching method to income rhythm prevents constant tension between calendar and cash flow. Prepare communication templates for lender interactions. If hardship occurs, you will not have time or calm to write coherent requests. Draft short scripts ahead of time that explain the situation succinctly, propose realistic temporary adjustments, and show intent to continue repayment. Lenders respond more favorably when communication is prompt, clear, and constructive. Include a plan for re-evaluation. Economic and personal circumstances change, and a static schedule can become a straitjacket. Set a quarterly or biannual review date where you compare actual progress to the plan and adjust buffer size, extra payment amounts, or communication triggers accordingly. Regular review is not indecision, it is intelligent adaptation. Decide on an acceleration or consolidation rule. If you accumulate additional savings or receive a windfall, decide in advance whether those funds will go toward accelerated repayment, consolidation into lower-cost debt, or strengthening reserves. Having a predetermined rule prevents the windfall from dissolving into impulse consumption. Document who benefits from the loan and how. If the borrowed funds directly support family living or business growth, be explicit about the expected returns and the timeline for those returns. Responsibility multiplies when others depend on the outcome, so clarity helps keep commitments aligned with capacity. Make contingency arrangements for co-signed or joint obligations. If another person is legally tied to the loan, agree on specific responsibilities and fallback plans in writing. These agreements protect relationships by reducing ambiguity when stress appears. Finally, set a protocol for the final stage of repayment. Plan how you will close accounts, maintain records, and redeploy freed cash toward long-term goals. Write down the steps for confirmation that the loan is fully paid, such as obtaining a release document or a zero balance statement and verifying credit reports. Ending responsibly completes the cycle and reinforces the habit loop you created. A clear repayment plan turns the abstract concept of debt into a daily routine that you control. It reduces anxiety by making reactions deliberate rather than reactive. Creating the plan before signing anything transforms borrowing from a leap into a managed commitment to a defined future. Follow through with the same discipline you used to design the plan, and the repayment will become evidence of your ability to plan, act, and finish what you start. Chapter 80. Use loans to invest, not to impress others. Using a loan to elevate capability or generate income requires clear purpose and steady judgment, not an effort to win approval or admiration from others. A purchase that looks impressive today can feel like a chain tomorrow when monthly obligations outlast its usefulness. Choosing investment over image begins with asking a simple question about the result you expect and how that result will still matter after the novelty fades. If the answer describes lasting benefit, such as new revenue, skills, or tangible ownership, then the loan is an instrument of growth. If the answer focuses on appearance or immediate social response, the loan will likely produce stress later. Start every decision by describing the outcome in concrete terms. Specify the measurable change you expect, such as the additional revenue per month the purchase should create, the percentage improvement in productivity the training should deliver, or the market value you expect an asset to hold after 2 years. Replace vague hopes with specific targets so you can evaluate results. When numbers replace impressions, the choice shifts from emotional to rational and accountability becomes possible. Estimate realistic returns before signing. Create a conservative projection of how the borrowed money will produce a return, and then stress test that projection with lower revenue scenarios and small delays. If the plan still works when results fall short, you have room to proceed. If the plan collapses under modest setbacks, the loan is exposing you to too much risk. This cautious modeling is an act of protection for both future options and present peace. Calculate total costs accurately and include maintenance, operating fees, training time, and any hidden charges that come with ownership. An investment that increases expenses faster than revenue quickly turns upside down. Honest accounting prevents surprises and keeps enthusiasm grounded in what will sustain you through slow periods. When costs are transparent, it is easier to judge whether the expected gains are proportional to the obligation. Prioritize investments that directly increase personal capability or scalable income streams. Funding a course that teaches high-demand skills or acquiring equipment that lets you service more clients expands capacity. When the borrowed capital becomes a multiplier of effort and time, it strengthens your position rather than simply shifting consumption forward. Look for options where additional effort or repetition improves returns rather than ones that plateau after a single use. Establish a margin of safety when forecasting benefits. Aim for returns that exceed the break-even point by a comfortable percentage instead of barely matching it. This buffer absorbs common setbacks and preserves your ability to meet payments without sacrificing basic necessities. A margin of safety is not pessimism, it is practical realism that protects freedom of action when unexpected events occur. Plan how the investment will be evaluated over time and set regular checkpoints. Decide in advance which metrics will signal success or failure and pick dates for review. If the asset or venture is not producing the agreed outcomes by a checkpoint, be prepared to adjust strategy, reduce exposure, or exit. Predefined review points prevent quiet rationalization and help preserve resources for opportunities that work better. Avoid loans that primarily finance consumption disguised as status. Use a simple test when in doubt. If the purchase will not still matter to your life in 3 years, it should not be financed with debt. This time horizon exposes fleeting trends and separates durable needs from temporary cravings. Financing ephemeral pleasure with long-term obligations creates regret that takes longer to recover from than the brief experience provided. Keep lifestyle inflation under strict control while an investment loan is active. Resist increasing recurring personal expenses when borrowed funds create temporary improvement in cash flow. Instead, commit incremental gains toward paying down the obligation or building reserves. This disciplined habit accelerates recovery of freedom and prevents the illusion that higher recurring spending is supported by borrowed progress. Consider leasing or renting as a trial mechanism before fully committing to purchase on credit. For equipment or tools, a short-term rental can demonstrate whether the tool delivers the expected boost in productivity or income. For services, a trial course or a small initial engagement can reveal whether the promised value is real. Trials reduce the chance of large mistakes and inform better use of borrowed funds. Balance leverage across types of investments to avoid concentration risk. Combining a modest investment in skill development with a small asset purchase can reduce the chance that a single failure obliterates progress. Diversified small bets that are thoughtfully selected produce more stable long-term outcomes than a single large commitment made for show. Document how the borrowed funds will be spent and create a binding personal agreement that links dollar amounts to specific actions and outcomes. Treat this document as seriously as any formal contract you sign with a lender or partner. Having a written plan reduces drift and provides clarity when temptation or pressure to deviate appears. Accountability to your written plan makes it easier to refuse unnecessary upgrades or splurges. Test assumptions about market demand before borrowing for an income project. Speak with potential customers, collect pre-commitments, run small pilot offers, and gather feedback. Real-world evidence about willingness to pay is far more reliable than optimistic projections. Use this evidence to refine the size of the loan you actually need and to tighten repayment expectations. Create a conservative timeline that maps when the investment will start generating returns and when it will cover the cost of borrowing. Include realistic lead time for learning adoption and initial friction. Planning with patience reduces the temptation to chase quick wins and helps maintain steady resolve through the learning curve. Include contingency tools in the financing plan. If revenue does not appear on schedule, know in advance how you will reduce variable expenses, pause discretionary spending, or temporarily relocate saved funds to maintain payments. Having specific fallback actions avoids panic and protects relationships and reputation when a setback happens. Resist offers that trade future control for present prestige. High-interest promotions or extended payment plans for luxury items often conceal the true price of looking successful. A deliberate refusal to accept such offers builds long-term credibility and honors the priority of sustained capability over transient approval. Share your investment decision with someone you trust who will challenge assumptions and ask uncomfortable questions. An empathetic critic who cares about your future can expose blind spots and push you to clarify objectives. Choose someone who understands markets or business enough to provide grounded feedback rather than flattery. Structure repayments to align with the nature of the investment. If returns are lumpy, choose a repayment schedule that allows flexibility or a temporary seasonal buffer. If returns are consistent, prefer regular amortization that steadily reduces obligation. Matching payment rhythm to earning rhythm prevents constant tension between calendar and cash flow. Monitor the investment's effect on your time and energy. Some purchases increase responsibility and reduce focus elsewhere. If an asset demands upkeep or administrative overhead that outweighs its benefits, reconsider the arrangement. A helpful rule is that an investment should not consume more time than the benefit justifies, unless you have a clear plan to delegate or systematize the added work. Protect personal relationships by being transparent about why borrowing is happening and how it will be managed. Silent financial choices often produce conflict later when impacts surface unexpectedly. Clear communication preserves trust and sets realistic expectations for shared resources and responsibilities. Avoid financing status upgrades that require ongoing maintenance costs you cannot sustain. Luxury items often carry recurring expenses such as insurance, high upkeep, or specialized repair. Factor these costs fully into the decision instead of focusing solely on the initial price. Use borrowed money to create repeatable processes that scale. Whether the funds purchase training or tools, ensure that the value created is replicable and can be expanded as demand grows. Investments that multiply with additional effort amplify returns and justify measured borrowing. Reclaim mental ownership of the borrowing decision by framing it as a temporary partnership with your future self. The loan is a tool that must be returned, and when paid it should leave behind capacity. Treat each payment as a transfer that buys back freedom and persistently redirect gains toward accelerating that process. Set an exit plan before you begin and include criteria for selling an asset or winding down a funded project. Knowing how and when to exit preserves capital and reduces emotional attachment that can justify prolonged loss. Practice gratitude for access to capital and use that appreciation to fuel responsible behavior. Recognize that credit is a privilege and treat it as a temporary resource to be stewarded rather than an entitlement to maintain appearances. Finally, cultivate a habit of slow decision-making for any financed purchase that could impact long-term stability. Delay commitments until projections are tested and until the plan has been reviewed against a conservative scenario. Patience will not prevent every mistake, but it will greatly reduce impulsive choices made under social pressure. Choosing loans to invest instead of impress provides a disciplined path toward independence and increased options. Every intentional investment should leave you more capable than before, while every payment should bring you closer to freedom. When borrowed money consistently produces measurable gains, it proves its worth and becomes a lever for genuine progress rather than a mirror for temporary approval. Chapter 90. Track cash flow daily to stay in control. Tracking cash flow daily is not about obsession or fear, it is about awareness and control. When money moves without being observed, it quietly decides your future for you. When you observe it every day, you become the decision maker again, Daily tracking gives you a clear picture of what is happening right now rather than what you hope is happening or what you assume will fix itself later. Control begins the moment confusion ends, and confusion ends when numbers are visible. Cash flow is not the same as income. Income tells you what comes in, but cash flow tells you what stays and what leaves. Many people feel stressed about debt, not because they earn too little, but because they do not see where money goes each day. Small leaks create big pressure over time. Daily tracking closes those leaks before they grow into emergencies. Start with a simple habit that takes less than 5 minutes. Write down every amount that comes in and every amount that goes out on the same day it happens. Do not wait for the weekend. Do not rely on memory. Memory protects comfort, not truth. Daily recording creates honesty without judgment. The goal is not to criticize yourself, but to understand patterns that repeat quietly. When loans are involved, daily tracking becomes even more important because obligations do not pause. Interest grows daily whether attention is present or not. When you track daily, you see the real cost of delays and the real benefit of early action. This awareness alone often improves behavior without forcing change. People naturally adjust when facts are visible. Use one place to track everything. A notebook, a spreadsheet, or a simple app all work if used consistently. Consistency matters more than complexity. Avoid systems that require too many steps because friction kills habits. The best system is the one you will use even on busy or tired days. Each morning review the previous day. Each evening prepare for the next one. This rhythm creates calm because there are no surprises. You already know what bills are coming and what income is expected. Anxiety often comes from not knowing rather than from lack of money. Daily tracking replaces worry with clarity. Separate fixed obligations from flexible spending in your records. Fixed obligations include loan payments, rent, utilities, and essential subscriptions. Flexible spending includes food, transport, personal items, and discretionary choices. Seeing these categories daily helps you protect essentials first and adjust flexible areas when needed without panic. When you notice a day with higher spending than planned, do not react emotionally. Ask what caused it and whether it was necessary. Learning replaces guilt. If it was necessary, then adjust future expectations. If it was optional, then you gain insight for next time. This process builds self-trust instead of fear. Daily tracking also reveals timing issues. You may earn enough monthly but receive income after expenses are due. Seeing this early allows you to adjust payment dates, save buffers, or renegotiate terms. Many debt problems come from timing mismatches rather than poor income. Awareness gives you options. Track loan-related numbers with special attention. Note principal balances, interest charged, and remaining term. Watching balances decrease, even slowly, builds confidence and momentum. Progress feels real when seen daily. This emotional reinforcement helps maintain discipline during long repayment periods. Cash flow tracking turns abstract goals into daily actions. Want to pay off a loan faster? Daily numbers show where extra money can be found without pain. Want to invest while repaying debt? Daily tracking shows what is realistically available. Dreams become grounded plans when supported by daily facts. Avoid checking only bank balances. A balance is a snapshot, not a story. Cash flow is the story. A high balance today may hide large obligations tomorrow. A low balance today may be fine if income is scheduled. Daily flow shows direction, not just position. Use daily tracking to build buffers. When you consistently see small surpluses, direct them into a separate reserve. Even modest reserves reduce stress dramatically. This buffer protects you from late fees, missed payments, and emotional decisions under pressure. When mistakes happen, and they will happen, record them honestly. Skipping a day does not mean quitting. Resume the next day without trying to reconstruct the past perfectly. Perfection is not required. Continuity is what builds control over time. Daily cash flow awareness improves decision-making beyond money. It sharpens attention, patience, and responsibility. These qualities transfer into work, relationships, and planning. Financial discipline strengthens personal discipline when practiced gently and consistently. Use tracking to test assumptions. If you believe a habit costs little, see the number after 30 days. If you think a subscription is harmless, watch its annual impact. Numbers remove excuses without argument. Truth becomes neutral and empowering. Avoid using daily tracking as a tool for self-punishment. The purpose is guidance, not shame. When used correctly, tracking creates peace because nothing is hidden. Hidden problems grow. Visible problems shrink. Over time, patterns will emerge. Certain days may be expensive. Certain triggers may lead to unnecessary spending. Certain choices may consistently improve cash flow. Recognizing patterns allows you to design your environment to support better behavior automatically. Daily tracking also improves communication with lenders or partners. When you know your numbers, you speak with confidence. You negotiate from facts, not fear. This alone can reduce interest rates, adjust payment terms, or prevent misunderstandings. As discipline grows, you will notice less emotional reaction to money. Decisions become calm. Emergencies feel manageable. This emotional stability is one of the greatest benefits of daily cash flow awareness. Eventually, tracking becomes intuitive, but do not abandon the habit too early. Continue even when things feel stable. Stability is preserved by attention, not luck. Daily awareness is what keeps control during both good and difficult periods. Tracking cash flow daily is not restrictive. It is freeing. It removes the unknown and replaces it with choice. When you see money clearly, you stop reacting and start directing. Control is not about force. It is about clarity practiced every day. With loans in your life, this habit becomes non-negotiable. It ensures borrowed money serves your growth rather than controlling your peace. Each recorded number is a reminder that you are paying attention, and attention is power. Chapter Hunte. Negotiate better terms by understanding lender incentives. Understanding lender incentives transforms negotiation from confrontation into strategy. Every financial institution has objectives beyond simply collecting payments. They aim to retain good clients, manage risk efficiently, and maximize revenue in predictable ways. Recognizing these motives allows you to align your requests with what the lender wants, while also improving your own outcomes. Negotiation is not about demanding concessions. It is about presenting solutions that serve both sides and create tangible value. Begin by identifying what the lender gains from your continued business. Banks prefer clients who pay on time, maintain healthy balances, and avoid defaults because predictable repayment reduces administrative cost and risk. This means they have a built-in incentive to keep you as a reliable borrower. Understanding this creates leverage. If you demonstrate stability, a history of punctuality, and transparency, the lender is motivated to accommodate reasonable requests. Before approaching a negotiation, gather accurate data about your account and performance. Know your current balance, interest rate, payment history, and any offers previously extended. Accurate information demonstrates preparedness and builds credibility. It also ensures that your requests are realistic and grounded in facts rather than guesswork. Lenders respond positively to clients who clearly understand their own obligations. Frame requests around mutual benefit. For example, if seeking a lower interest rate, emphasize your consistent repayment record and long-term potential as a profitable client. Explain that reducing the rate allows you to remain in good standing while continuing to generate revenue for the lender. By presenting the adjustment as a win for both parties, resistance decreases and your request becomes easier to accept. Timing matters. Lenders are often more receptive when economic conditions are favorable or when their portfolios need active management of risk exposure. Approaching during periods when institutions are focused on customer retention or balancing risk can increase the chance of success. Awareness of seasonal or market patterns informs when to initiate discussions and improves leverage. Understand the different components of a loan and how each can be negotiated. Interest rates, repayment schedules, fees, and terms can all be adjusted under the right circumstances. Identify which areas create the most impact on your financial flexibility. When multiple factors are adjustable, prioritize requests that maximize tangible benefit while remaining acceptable to the lender. Use clear and professional communication. State your request directly, provide supporting facts, and explain why the adjustment makes sense for both sides. Avoid emotional appeals or exaggerations. Professionalism demonstrates competence and reduces perceived risk. increasing the likelihood that your negotiation is taken seriously. Research comparable products and rates in the market before negotiation. Knowledge of what other institutions offer provides context for your request and signals to the lender that your terms are reasonable. This benchmarking also allows you to structure proposals that are realistic, credible, and aligned with industry standards. Consider bundling requests for greater efficiency. Instead of asking separately for lower rates, waived fees, or extended terms, combine adjustments in a single proposal. A consolidated request shows strategic thinking and makes it easier for the lender to evaluate the overall benefit. It also avoids repeated friction over multiple minor requests. Anticipate objections and prepare counterproposals. Lenders will often explain limitations or risk concerns. Prepare alternative solutions that meet your needs while respecting their constraints. For example, if a lower interest rate is denied, propose a temporary reduction, a shorter term for early repayment, or waived fees in exchange for continued on-time payments. Flexibility improves outcomes. Highlight your long-term potential. Institutions are motivated by clients who will generate revenue consistently over years. When negotiating, articulate your plan for responsible borrowing, ongoing payments, and potential future growth. Demonstrating foresight shows that concessions are not short-term favors but investments in a reliable relationship. Maintain a calm and objective tone. Avoid pressure tactics or aggressive confrontation. Negotiations succeed when both sides feel respected and understood. Confidence grounded in facts and clarity strengthens influence without creating adversarial dynamics. Leverage existing loyalty and history strategically. If you have multiple accounts or have maintained long-term engagement with a lender, highlight these factors. Longevity and demonstrated reliability create credibility, making lenders more willing to adjust terms to retain you as a client. Document any agreements reached. Written confirmation protects both parties and ensures clarity about new terms. Misunderstandings can erode trust, so a clear record of adjustments maintains transparency and accountability. Understand regulatory or institutional constraints. Some terms may be rigid due to policy, while others have discretionary flexibility. Knowing the boundaries of negotiation prevents wasted effort and focuses attention on areas where meaningful change is possible. Use negotiation as an opportunity to build a framework for future requests. By demonstrating professionalism, reliability, and understanding of mutual benefits, you establish a precedent that can simplify future discussions about adjustments, refinancing, or additional borrowing. Evaluate offers carefully before accepting. Not all concessions are equal. Some changes may provide immediate benefit but create hidden obligations or costs. Ensure that all adjustments align with long-term goals and do not inadvertently increase risk or reduce flexibility. Practice patience and persistence. Lenders may not respond immediately or may require multiple discussions to approve requests. Maintain clarity in communication, follow up consistently, and remain professional throughout the process. Persistence combined with preparation and respect increases the likelihood of achieving desired results. Recognize that negotiation is a skill. Each interaction teaches lessons about timing, phrasing, and strategy. Use every discussion to refine your approach and expand your understanding of how lenders evaluate requests. Over time, repeated practice strengthens confidence and effectiveness. Finally, frame negotiations as part of broader financial discipline. Adjusting loan terms is not a substitute for responsible borrowing, timely repayment, or careful cash flow management. Success in negotiation amplifies the benefits of disciplined financial habits rather than replacing them. The ultimate goal is to create sustainable arrangements that support growth, resilience, and freedom. Approaching lenders with clarity, preparation, and awareness of incentives turns borrowing from a passive obligation into an active tool for strategic advantage. When terms are negotiated intelligently, you reduce costs, gain flexibility, and build relationships that reward discipline and reliability. Understanding the other side's motivations is not manipulation, it is the application of insight, foresight, and practical reasoning that ensures every loan serves long-term objectives rather than short-term necessity. Chapter 11:10 Protect your income with emergency savings alongside borrowing. Protecting your income while managing loans is a matter of foresight, discipline, and practical planning. Borrowing without a safety net is like walking a tightrope without a net beneath. One unexpected event can destabilize everything. Emergency savings are not optional buffers, but essential shields that allow you to meet obligations without stress or compromise. When loans and income intersect, the presence of a dedicated reserve ensures that temporary setbacks do not become long-term crises. Begin by defining what constitutes an emergency in your context. Essentials such as rent, utilities, food, transportation, medical needs, and unavoidable loan payments form the foundation of protection. Any financial event that threatens the ability to meet these basic requirements qualifies as an emergency. By clarifying this, you establish boundaries that prevent minor fluctuations or lifestyle choices from being misclassified, keeping the reserve focused and effective. Set a target for the emergency fund that corresponds to your obligations. A minimum of 3 months of essential living costs is a practical starting point, but this should increase with the size of the loan and the stability of your income. Freelancers or individuals with variable earnings may require 6 months or more to absorb fluctuations. The goal is not just a number, but a functional tool that covers obligations while maintaining peace of mind. Prioritize contributions to the emergency fund even while making loan payments. Allocate a fixed percentage of income to this reserve alongside your regular repayment schedule. By treating it as non-negotiable, you build consistency and prevent sudden depletion of funds. Small daily or weekly contributions accumulate quickly over time and reinforce the habit of financial foresight. Maintain the emergency savings in a liquid, accessible form. High-yield accounts, money market funds, or separate savings accounts allow immediate access without penalties. Avoid investing these funds in volatile assets that could reduce liquidity during a critical period. The purpose of the emergency fund is safety and availability, not growth speculation. Separate the emergency fund from everyday accounts. A distinct account labeled clearly as reserved for emergencies reduces temptation and accidental use. Physical separation or digital segregation reinforces discipline and ensures that when a true need arises, funds are intact. Psychological separation is as important as numerical accounting because it strengthens commitment to long-term protection. Review and update the target regularly. Life circumstances change, income may increase, family responsibilities grow, or debts expand. Adjust the reserve to reflect current realities rather than outdated assumptions. Regular review ensures the fund remains adequate and meaningful. Integrate emergency savings with loan repayment strategy. Before taking additional debt or increasing borrowing amounts, confirm that the reserve remains intact and sufficient to cover obligations under stress. Never assume that new credit automatically compensates for insufficient savings. Emergency funds act as primary protection while loans provide leverage, not insurance. Visualize potential stress scenarios to understand the importance of protection. Imagine delayed income, medical expenses, urgent repairs, or temporary business downturns. Assess how these events would affect your ability to meet both essential expenses and loan obligations. This exercise clarifies the practical role of the emergency fund and motivates adherence to contributions. Link emergency savings directly to decision-making. Each time a new expense, investment, or loan is considered, evaluate how it affects the reserve. If the decision would significantly reduce the fund or leave you exposed, pause or adjust. This process creates a disciplined filter that preserves financial stability while allowing growth. Automate savings to strengthen consistency. Schedule transfers from income to the emergency fund immediately upon receipt. Automation removes reliance on willpower or memory, ensuring the reserve grows steadily. Consistency builds reliability and reduces anxiety associated with unexpected disruptions. Use the emergency fund strategically but sparingly. Only draw from it for genuine emergencies, not discretionary purchases or minor convenience. A disciplined approach ensures the fund is available precisely when needed and maintains its intended purpose over time. Track the reserve alongside daily cash flow. Seeing the fund grow in parallel with tracking income and expenses reinforces progress and maintains awareness of your financial landscape. This visibility encourages responsible behavior and discourages risky decisions that could undermine stability. Maintain transparency with yourself and others if applicable. If you share finances with family or partners, clarify the purpose and rules of the emergency fund. Open communication prevents conflict and ensures that the reserve fulfills its intended protective function. Pair emergency savings with insurance coverage when possible. Health, disability, or property insurance can complement the fund by reducing the severity of potential financial shocks. Together, they form a multi-layered protection system that preserves both income and peace of mind. Practice discipline in replenishing the fund after use. If an emergency requires withdrawal, return the equivalent amount as soon as circumstances allow. This ensures the reserve remains ready for the next unforeseen event and reinforces long-term habit formation. Consider gradual scaling of the emergency fund in tandem with loan repayment acceleration. As loans decrease in size or interest cost, redirect part of freed cash toward further strengthening the reserve. This creates a reinforcing cycle of protection and freedom from financial stress. Regularly simulate emergency scenarios to test readiness. Conduct small exercises, such as temporarily relying only on the reserve for essential expenses, to confirm the fund is sufficient and accessible. This proactive approach builds confidence and identifies any gaps in planning. View the emergency fund as psychological insurance as well as financial. Knowing that obligations are covered even in worst-case situations reduces stress, improves decision-making, and increases resilience. Confidence in your stability allows you to manage debt responsibly without fear or reactive behavior. Incorporate emergency savings into long-term financial goals. A healthy reserve not only protects income, but also creates a foundation for disciplined growth, investment, and opportunity-taking. The fund becomes a tool for stability, not a limitation, enabling strategic choices without compromising security. Never underestimate the compounding effect of consistent small contributions. Even modest daily or weekly allocations grow significantly over time, providing meaningful protection without requiring large sacrifices from income. Discipline and patience are more powerful than sporadic large deposits. Emergency savings alongside borrowing ensures that leverage serves opportunity rather than pressure. It separates growth from vulnerability, turning risk into manageable strategy. With a sufficient reserve, obligations are predictable, choices remain free, and the borrower maintains control over both present life and future direction. The intersection of loans and savings is a test of discipline, foresight, and self-mastery. By protecting income with a dedicated emergency fund, you transform borrowing from a source of stress into a tool for strategic growth. Every contribution, every review, and every disciplined decision strengthens resilience, reinforces independence, and ensures that temporary challenges do not derail long-term progress. This approach creates a stable foundation for every future financial move, making loans a vehicle for expansion rather than a source of fear. Chapter 12. Eliminate bad debt quickly using focused payoff strategies. Eliminating bad debt quickly requires focus, discipline, and a clear strategy that prioritizes results over convenience. Bad debt is any obligation that drains resources without producing growth, income, or tangible long-term value. Credit cards with high interest rates, payday loans, and consumer financing for depreciating items all fall into this category. Carrying these debts slowly erodes financial stability, limits freedom, and compounds stress. Addressing them decisively transforms financial pressure into momentum and creates space for smarter financial decisions. Start by listing every source of bad debt, including interest rates, balances, and minimum monthly payments. Understanding the full landscape is essential because hidden fees or compounding interest can disguise the real cost. Seeing the total obligation in one place converts abstract worry into actionable insight. Rank debts by cost or psychological burden. Some strategies focus on paying off the highest interest debts first, which minimizes total cost over time. Others focus on the smallest balances first to build quick wins and motivation. Both approaches are valid. The key is deliberate prioritization rather than random payments. Knowing the method you will follow creates momentum and reduces decision fatigue. Allocate extra resources aggressively to targeted debts. Identify funds that can be redirected from discretionary spending, temporary side income, or unused subscriptions and direct them toward your payoff plan. Even small incremental contributions accelerate progress when consistently applied. The principle is consistency and intensity combined, not sporadic effort. Create a realistic timeline for elimination. Establishing target payoff dates transforms vague intentions into measurable milestones. Breaking the total balance into achievable monthly goals allows you to track progress and maintain focus. Each milestone reached reinforces discipline and provides visible proof that bad debt can be removed faster than expected. Automate minimum payments for all debts while applying discretionary funds to prioritize targets. Automation ensures nothing is missed, protecting credit and reducing penalties. At the same time, focusing extra effort on one target at a time maximizes impact and accelerates the payoff process. Balance efficiency with targeted intensity. Consider consolidating debts if it reduces interest costs without increasing risk. A low-interest consolidation loan can replace multiple high-interest obligations, making payments predictable and manageable. However, consolidation is a tool, not a cure. Ensure it does not extend repayment unnecessarily or encourage further borrowing. Discipline remains the central factor in elimination. Track progress rigorously. Record remaining balances daily or weekly to maintain awareness of how payments affect overall debt. Visual feedback reinforces behavior and highlights acceleration opportunities. It also allows for adjustments if income, expenses, or interest rates change. Momentum is maintained when tangible results are observed frequently. Cut unnecessary expenses temporarily to free additional funds for payoff. Review daily spending, recurring subscriptions, and discretionary purchases with a critical eye. Every saved dollar applied to debt reduces total interest, shortens the timeline, and strengthens financial control. Temporary sacrifice produces permanent advantage. Consider negotiating lower interest rates where possible. Lenders may offer reduced rates in exchange for automatic payments or a track record of timely payments. A modest reduction can significantly accelerate repayment and reduce total cost. Approach negotiations with clarity and professionalism to maximize results. Use windfalls or bonuses strategically. Any unexpected income should first strengthen your payoff plan rather than fund consumption. Directing these funds toward bad debt compounds their value, reducing the overall burden faster than steady incremental effort alone. Discipline in using windfalls is often the difference between slow progress and rapid elimination. Avoid transferring balances without a clear plan. While balance transfers may temporarily reduce interest, they often introduce new fees or tempt spending on a fresh start. Only employ such strategies if they are accompanied by a firm schedule and disciplined repayment commitment. Mismanaged transfers can exacerbate problems instead of solving them. Break down monthly targets into weekly or daily mini goals. Focusing on small increments prevents overwhelm and maintains a sense of control. A large balance can feel insurmountable, but when sliced into manageable portions, each payment is a tangible achievement. These micro milestones create psychological momentum and reinforce the habit of proactive action. Stay mindful of compounding interest. High-interest debts grow quickly if left unmanaged. Each day that payments are delayed increases the amount owed. Understanding this dynamic motivates consistent action and prevents rationalizing minimal or sporadic payments. Quick elimination is both a financial and psychological advantage. Avoid accumulating new bad debt while paying off existing obligations. Every new charge reduces available resources and prolongs the timeline. Discipline in spending is inseparable from successful repayment. Treat new purchases as optional and test whether they are essential before committing, especially if a loan or credit card balance is active. Use accountability partners or tools. Sharing goals with someone you trust or tracking progress publicly can reinforce commitment. External accountability strengthens internal discipline and provides motivation during periods of temptation or fatigue. Structured support often accelerates payoff and maintains focus. Prepare for emotional resistance. Debt can be stressful, and payoff strategies may require sacrifices or temporary discomfort. Recognize that discomfort is a sign of progress rather than failure. Maintaining perspective ensures persistence and avoids emotional derailment. Adjust strategies as necessary. Income, expenses, or unexpected costs may shift priorities. A dynamic approach allows the plan to remain practical and effective while staying on track. Flexibility in execution does not weaken commitment. It ensures the plan continues to serve objectives under changing circumstances. Celebrate milestones carefully. Each debt fully repaid is an achievement and reinforces positive behavior. Recognize progress without undermining financial discipline. Rewarding yourself modestly after completing a significant portion of payoff strengthens habit formation and morale. Review post-elimination strategy. Once bad debts are cleared, allocate freed cash toward emergency savings, investing, or strategic borrowing. Eliminating high-cost obligations unlocks freedom, but sustaining this freedom requires disciplined reinvestment of resources into growth and protection. Understand the psychological impact of elimination. The act of paying off bad debt produces confidence, reduces stress, and reinforces financial control. These benefits compound over time, creating a virtuous cycle where proactive behavior leads to better decisions, stronger habits, and increased resilience. Track every action and remain aware of consequences. Missed payments, new charges, or miscalculations can slow progress. Vigilance ensures that momentum is maintained and that strategies deliver the expected outcome efficiently. Attention to detail accelerates results more reliably than intention alone. Visualize the end state regularly. Seeing yourself free from bad debt reinforces motivation, clarity, and commitment. This mental clarity aligns action with objective and sustains energy through the required discipline. Focused payoff strategies turn debt from a source of stress into a measurable challenge that can be overcome efficiently. Discipline, prioritization, and visibility transform high-cost obligations into a series of manageable steps. Rapid elimination is not luck. It is the product of structured planning, consistent action, and unwavering commitment to reclaiming financial freedom. Every payment applied deliberately, every unnecessary expense avoided, and every milestone acknowledged brings a tangible sense of control and accelerates the journey from burdened borrower to empowered strategist. Chapter 13. Leverage good debt to accelerate learning and earning. Leverage good debt intentionally to accelerate both learning and earning, because not all borrowing is equal. Good debt is any financial obligation that increases your skills, knowledge, or income potential. Unlike high-interest consumer debt that drains resources, well-chosen debt acts as a tool to amplify future opportunities. Using it strategically allows you to access education, tools, or assets that would otherwise be unattainable while building a foundation for long-term growth. Every borrowed dollar should be viewed as an investment in capability rather than consumption. Identify areas where additional learning or skill acquisition directly correlates with earning potential. Courses, certifications, workshops, or training programs often have upfront costs but can generate returns far exceeding the original expenditure. A loan that enables enrollment in a program with measurable outcomes is an example of good debt, because it converts temporary financial obligation into long-term capability. Evaluate the expected return on any borrowed funds. Consider not only potential income increases but also time saved, efficiency gained, or doors opened. Calculate how quickly the investment can pay itself back through enhanced earning capacity. Conservative projections prevent overestimation and keep expectations grounded while still motivating action. Prioritize borrowing for assets that produce income or growth repeatedly rather than one-time experiences. Equipment, software, or systems that scale your work amplify the effect of borrowing. By contrast, items that depreciate or fail to enhance skill are liabilities even if initially exciting. Focus on tools that multiply returns over time. Develop a clear plan for how borrowed funds will translate into learning or earning. Define concrete milestones and benchmarks, such as certifications completed, projects finished, or measurable revenue increases. This ensures accountability and allows you to track progress toward tangible outcomes. Without a plan, borrowing may become speculative rather than strategic. Combine loans with disciplined cash flow management. Even good debt carries obligations, and meeting repayment schedules is essential to preserving credibility and financial stability. Allocating a portion of income toward repayment while ensuring living expenses are covered reduces stress and keeps the borrowing productive rather than burdensome. Leverage relationships and networks to enhance the value of borrowed funds. Attending courses or acquiring tools opens opportunities to connect with mentors, peers, or clients. The social and professional growth gained alongside technical skill amplifies the return on investment. Access to networks often converts educational debt into income opportunities faster than knowledge alone. Select financing with favorable terms to reduce the cost of borrowing. Low-interest loans, deferred repayment options, or flexible schedules allow you to focus on maximizing the returns of your investment. Choosing the right structure ensures that the borrowed funds accelerate growth rather than creating unnecessary pressure or risk. Use borrowed funds to test new opportunities with measurable risk management. Small-scale experiments in business, consulting, or projects funded with strategic debt allow learning without jeopardizing essential resources. Each experiment expands knowledge while providing real-world experience that contributes to earning potential. Focus on skill sets that remain relevant and in demand. Borrowing to learn transient trends or fads provides limited returns. Instead, prioritize abilities that are applicable across multiple contexts or industries. This ensures that investment in education maintains value over time, reducing the chance of wasted capital. Integrate borrowing with long-term professional development. Use loans to fund certifications, advanced degrees, or specialized training that positions you for higher responsibilities or entrepreneurial opportunities. Consistently building competence while managing repayment demonstrates foresight and strengthens financial literacy alongside professional growth. Track the effectiveness of good debt regularly. Monitor whether each borrowed dollar translates into tangible learning, skill enhancement, or income increase. Adjust strategies if progress lags or expected outcomes do not materialize. This feedback loop ensures debt continues to serve as a tool rather than a distraction. Treat repayment as part of the learning process. Meeting obligations on time reinforces discipline, time management, and responsibility. These habits strengthen professional character, which is as valuable as the technical skills obtained through borrowing. The ability to manage financial obligations effectively enhances trustworthiness and credibility in professional contexts. Combine good debt with complementary personal investments. Savings, emergency funds, and contingency planning ensure that leveraging debt does not expose you to unnecessary risk. The combination of protective resources with strategic borrowing creates a stable platform for experimentation, growth, and earning acceleration. Leverage borrowed knowledge by applying it immediately. Skills learned but unused decay quickly. Projects, side ventures, or freelance work allow the application of borrowed, funded learning, creating feedback loops that improve competence and increase income potential. Active application multiplies the effect of every borrowed dollar spent on education or tools. Maintain a disciplined mindset that differentiates between leverage and indulgence. Borrowed funds for personal enjoyment or status rarely produce returns. Clarity in intent ensures that debt accelerates capability and earning rather than creating stress or distraction. Every borrowing decision should align with measurable long-term value. Consider mentorship and guidance alongside borrowing. Learning from experts or coaches amplifies the impact of financial investment in education. Loans that fund access to knowledge mentors accelerate skill acquisition and help avoid costly mistakes, increasing the efficiency of borrowed funds. Break larger borrowing goals into staged investments. Instead of financing a large course or program all at once, consider incremental borrowing aligned with completed milestones. This approach reduces risk, allows for adaptation based on results, and preserves financial flexibility. Leverage good debt to cultivate independence. Strategic borrowing can provide access to tools or education that allow you to generate income autonomously. By investing in self-reliance, debt transforms from a liability into a bridge to freedom and capability. Use reflection and evaluation to optimize future borrowing. After completing a program or project funded with strategic debt, assess what worked, what didn't, and how similar investments could be more efficient. This ongoing refinement ensures that future loans consistently maximize learning and earning outcomes. Recognize that leveraging debt effectively requires balance. Overextending even on good debt can create strain and reduce effectiveness. Maintain a clear view of capacity, repayment ability, and opportunity cost to ensure each borrowed dollar truly contributes to growth rather than creating hidden stress. Strategic use of good debt strengthens both financial literacy and personal confidence. Observing repayments alongside measured outcomes teaches accountability, risk assessment, and strategic thinking. These lessons extend beyond finance, shaping decision-making across career and life. Borrowing for growth is not a shortcut, but a structured tool. Every decision should be grounded in evaluation, measurement, and practical application. When managed wisely, good debt functions as a multiplier of effort and skill, accelerating learning curves and opening doors to higher income opportunities. Leveraging good debt effectively positions you for continuous advancement. Each investment in skill, knowledge, or income-generating assets creates a cycle of capability, repayment, and increased opportunity. Discipline, strategy, and reflection transform borrowed funds from a temporary obligation into a long-lasting engine for growth and independence. Chapter 14. Review loan performance regularly and adjust decisions. Reviewing loan performance regularly is a critical practice that ensures borrowed funds remain aligned with financial goals and do not become a source of hidden risk. Many borrowers make the mistake of assuming that once a loan is signed, it requires only monthly payments. But this passive approach allows small issues to grow into costly problems. By actively monitoring performance, you gain insight into interest accumulation, repayment progress, and overall financial impact, which empowers better decision-making. Regular review transforms borrowing from a static obligation into a dynamic tool that can be optimized for growth, stability, and opportunity. Begin by scheduling a consistent review cadence. Monthly assessments provide a detailed snapshot of principal reduction, interest paid, and remaining balances, while quarterly evaluations allow you to assess overall strategy and alignment with broader financial goals. Establishing routine ensures that no obligation goes unnoticed and that adjustments can be made promptly before minor issues escalate. Analyze the effective interest rate and cost of each loan. Some loans have variable rates, hidden fees, or compounding schedules that increase total cost beyond initial expectations. Calculating the true cost allows you to compare options, identify opportunities to refinance, and ensure each borrowing decision remains efficient. Understanding exact numbers transforms assumptions into actionable intelligence. Track repayment progress against your original plan. Compare actual payments made and balances reduced to projected milestones. Deviations indicate whether the strategy is effective or if adjustments are required. For instance, slower principal reduction may reveal that extra payments are needed or that discretionary spending must be redirected. Visibility of progress maintains accountability and motivation. Evaluate whether the loan continues to serve its intended purpose. Loans taken for investment, skill acquisition, or asset purchase should be assessed on their ongoing value contribution. If the intended benefit is not materializing, consider restructuring, refinancing, or reallocating funds. Active evaluation prevents debt from becoming an anchor that limits growth and ensures that borrowing produces measurable returns. Identify trends and patterns in payment behavior. Are certain months consistently tighter than others? Do unexpected expenses erode repayment capacity periodically? Recognizing these patterns allows proactive adjustments to cash flow management, preventing late payments, penalties, and credit damage. Awareness of trends strengthens both financial resilience and personal discipline. Consider refinancing or renegotiating terms if performance indicates potential improvement. Lowering interest rates, extending or shortening terms, or consolidating multiple loans can optimize financial outcomes. Regular review ensures you capitalize on favorable opportunities rather than continuing under suboptimal conditions. Timing matters. An informed assessment improves negotiation leverage. Monitor external conditions that affect your loan. Economic shifts, changes in interest rates, or policy updates can impact repayment strategies. Awareness of these factors allows you to adapt proactively rather than reactively, preserving both control and advantage. Being informed about the broader environment prevents surprise costs and enhances strategic decision-making. Evaluate repayment priorities in light of performance. If one loan is progressing faster than expected while another is lagging, reallocate resources to maximize efficiency. Adjusting the focus of payment strategically reduces overall interest cost, accelerates debt elimination, and strengthens financial confidence. Dynamic prioritization ensures every payment works toward the highest impact. Record all insights systematically. Maintain a log of balances, interest, payment history, and adjustments. Documentation prevents errors, creates clarity, and provides a historical record that can guide future borrowing decisions. Accurate records allow objective assessment rather than reliance on memory or assumptions, making every decision data-driven. Use the review to test assumptions. Loans taken with specific expectations about growth, income generation, or cost reduction should be assessed to determine if these assumptions hold true. If the results differ from projections, adjust strategy immediately. Borrowing is effective only when outcomes are monitored and learning is applied consistently. Assess personal behavior alongside loan performance. Late payments, missed opportunities for extra contributions, or misallocation of funds reveal patterns that can be improved. Self-reflection combined with financial review strengthens discipline, accountability, and long-term decision-making. Behavioral awareness amplifies the effectiveness of any financial strategy. Incorporate visual tools for clarity. Spreadsheets, charts, or simple graphs make trends and anomalies immediately apparent. Visual representation accelerates understanding, enhances memory, and supports faster decision-making. Clear insight reduces stress and makes review an empowering rather than daunting task. Consider scenario analysis during reviews. What if income decreases? What if interest rates rise? Evaluating hypothetical situations highlights vulnerabilities and prepares contingency plans. Anticipating challenges allows you to adjust proactively rather than react under pressure. Scenario analysis strengthens confidence and reduces uncertainty. Integrate review with broader financial planning. Loans are part of an ecosystem that includes income, expenses, savings, and investments. Assessing how each loan fits into your overall plan ensures that debt supports goals rather than competing with them. Alignment between borrowing and broader objectives creates coherence and long-term stability. Regular review uncovers opportunities to accelerate repayment. Surplus funds, windfalls, or reduced expenses identified during assessment can be directed strategically to high-impact loans. Rapid principal reduction saves interest and frees cash flow for future investments. Visibility enables opportunistic yet disciplined action. Maintain a forward-looking perspective. Review is not solely about past performance but about planning the next steps. Adjust schedules, explore better options, and prepare for potential challenges based on the latest data. Forward-looking evaluation transforms borrowing into a proactive strategy rather than a reactive burden. Benchmark against alternatives. Comparing current loan performance to available options in the market reveals whether existing terms remain competitive. Awareness of potential alternatives ensures you are not overpaying or missing opportunities to optimize borrowing. This comparative approach enhances informed decision-making. Use the review process to reinforce accountability. Treat every assessment as a commitment to responsible borrowing. Consistency builds habits of vigilance, precision, and strategic thinking. Repetition of disciplined review strengthens financial literacy and self-control over time. Avoid complacency even when loans are performing well. Good performance is not a reason to neglect review. Conditions change, and continued oversight ensures that positive outcomes are maintained. Complacency can quickly erode financial control, whereas regular monitoring preserves and enhances stability. Conclude each review with actionable adjustments. Identify what needs to change, how it will be implemented, and when progress will be reassessed. Action-oriented conclusions prevent review from becoming a passive exercise and ensure tangible improvement. Regular loan performance review is a cornerstone of financial mastery, Monitoring, analyzing, and adjusting ensures that borrowed funds remain productive, manageable, and aligned with long-term goals. Discipline, awareness, and proactive decision-making convert loans from static obligations into strategic instruments that support growth, resilience, and freedom. A committed approach to continuous evaluation empowers borrowers to act confidently, optimize outcomes, and maintain control over their financial journey. Chapter 15. Strengthen habits that support consistency, patience, and accountability. Building habits that reinforce consistency, patience, and accountability is essential for long-term success in managing loans, personal growth, and financial discipline. Habits are the framework upon which every sustainable achievement is constructed. Without deliberate practices, even the most carefully laid plans can falter under pressure, distractions, or unexpected challenges. Strengthening these habits transforms intention into action, creates predictable results, and reduces the risk of impulsive decisions that undermine progress. Developing these qualities is not instantaneous. It requires structured effort, reflection, and resilience. Start by identifying the habits that directly influence financial consistency. Daily tracking of expenses, scheduled loan repayments, and regular review of cash flow are foundational behaviors that maintain control and visibility. Each time a habit is performed, it reinforces discipline and creates a cumulative effect over weeks and months. The repetition of small, deliberate actions compounds into measurable results, ensuring that progress is continuous rather than sporadic. Incorporate a structured routine that allows for predictable execution of key tasks. Allocate specific times for reviewing accounts, making payments, and assessing financial decisions. Routines reduce cognitive load and prevent neglect due to competing priorities. Consistency is maintained not through motivation alone, but through reliable structure that guides behavior. Patience is cultivated through intentional pacing of actions and realistic expectations. Immediate results are rare, especially in financial growth or skill development. Accepting that meaningful progress requires sustained effort prevents frustration and impulsive choices. By focusing on the process rather than instant outcomes, you reinforce perseverance and avoid the trap of short-term thinking. Use accountability mechanisms to support habit formation. Sharing goals with a trusted mentor, partner, or peer creates external pressure to maintain commitments. Reporting progress regularly or setting up automated reminders strengthens follow-through. Accountability does not rely solely on oversight. It also builds integrity and reinforces personal responsibility. Set measurable benchmarks for each habit. Daily or weekly targets provide clear indicators of whether behavior aligns with objectives. Concrete metrics allow reflection, adjustment, and reinforcement, ensuring habits remain purposeful rather than symbolic. Measurement also makes progress visible, which motivates continued effort and reduces the tendency to abandon routines prematurely. Combine small incremental actions to strengthen habits. A single task performed consistently, such as checking balances, reviewing expenses, or making a payment, lays the foundation. Layering additional actions over time, like preparing budgets or simulating repayment scenarios, builds complexity while maintaining mastery. Gradual expansion prevents overwhelm and solidifies confidence. Reflect on performance regularly to identify gaps or improvements. Honest evaluation allows recognition of successes and areas where discipline may lapse. Reflection reinforces accountability and supports conscious adjustment of behavior. Learning from patterns rather than reacting to mistakes ensures steady refinement of habits over time. Develop resilience against distractions and temptations. Deliberately limit exposure to impulse-driven financial choices, unnecessary spending, or risky behavior. Protecting the environment in which habits are practiced ensures that consistency is maintained and patience is not eroded by reactive behavior. Habits thrive in structured conditions that favor deliberate action. Pair accountability with reward systems. Positive reinforcement strengthens habit adherence. Acknowledge milestones or sustained effort through modest rewards that reinforce desired behaviors without undermining discipline. Recognition of achievement motivates persistence and integrates habits into daily life without creating external dependency. Anchor habits to existing routines to enhance adherence. Linking financial review to morning preparation, daily journaling, or weekly planning leverages natural rhythm to maintain consistency. Habit stacking reduces friction and makes adoption more automatic. Over time, routines become ingrained, requiring minimal conscious effort while delivering substantial outcomes. Practice delayed gratification to strengthen patience. Avoid reacting to immediate desires that conflict with long-term objectives. Each decision to postpone a non-essential action reinforces control, self-discipline, and the ability to navigate challenges without sacrificing progress. Mastery of delayed gratification also reduces stress by promoting deliberate choice rather than reactive behavior. Record and visualize progress consistently. Tracking payment completion, expense management, or goal achievement provides tangible evidence of consistency. Visualization of cumulative efforts reinforces motivation and fosters confidence in the ability to maintain habits under pressure. Seeing progress concretely reduces the likelihood of abandoning long-term objectives. Incorporate flexibility without compromising principles. Habits should adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining alignment with key objectives. Adjust timing, scope, or intensity based on realistic assessment, but never abandon the core behaviors that underpin success. Flexibility strengthens resilience and prevents burnout while preserving momentum. Engage in proactive problem-solving when lapses occur. Identify causes rather than assigning blame and implement corrective strategies immediately. Rapid response prevents small deviations from compounding into larger failures. Habit strength is not the absence of mistakes, but the capacity to recover efficiently and return to consistent action. Use intentional planning to reinforce accountability. Anticipate challenges, schedule commitments, and prepare contingency actions. Structured planning provides a framework for sustained behavior and ensures that habits remain aligned with objectives, even under pressure. Preparation reduces reliance on willpower alone and strengthens reliability. Cultivate mental clarity through reflection and journaling. Documenting intentions, progress, and obstacles enhances awareness of personal behavior. Journaling promotes self-accountability, reinforces discipline, and provides a historical record that informs future decisions. Conscious reflection strengthens the habit loop by linking action with insight. Evaluate habits against long-term objectives regularly. Ask whether each behavior contributes meaningfully to financial stability, personal growth, or strategic goals. Discard routines that are symbolic or ineffective and reinforce those that deliver tangible results. Habit refinement ensures that energy is focused on practices that maximize impact. Integrate feedback loops into habit practice. Monitor outcomes, compare them to expectations, and adjust execution. Real-time feedback enhances learning, reduces errors, and accelerates mastery of consistency, patience, and accountability. Feedback loops transform repetitive action into deliberate improvement rather than rote behavior. Recognize that habit formation is cumulative. Every act of consistency reinforces the next. Patience supports perseverance, and accountability strengthens reliability. Together, these qualities compound over time, creating a robust foundation for managing loans, investments, and personal development. Strengthening habits is not a one-time effort, but an ongoing process that sustains growth, reduces stress, and maximizes long-term success. By focusing intentionally on reinforcing consistency, patience, and accountability, you transform borrowing, financial management, and personal development into predictable, controllable, and productive practices. Each habit strengthens the next, creating an ecosystem of disciplined behavior that supports decision-making, resilience, and meaningful progress. Over time, these reinforced habits become second nature, allowing you to navigate financial and life challenges with confidence, clarity, and sustained effectiveness. Chapter 16. Avoid emotional borrowing by setting strict rules. Avoiding emotional borrowing requires clear boundaries, discipline, and a conscious commitment to rational decision-making. Emotional borrowing occurs when loans are taken impulsively to satisfy desires, alleviate temporary discomfort, or respond to social pressure rather than serve a calculated purpose. This type of borrowing often leads to financial strain, regret, and the accumulation of unnecessary debt. Establishing strict rules creates a protective framework that ensures every borrowing decision is intentional, responsible, and aligned with long-term goals. Begin by defining what qualifies as acceptable borrowing. Only loans that contribute directly to growth, income, or strategic opportunity should be considered. Every potential loan must meet specific criteria before approval, eliminating ambiguity and preventing emotional impulses from dictating behavior. Clearly articulated rules act as guardrails, guiding decisions under pressure or during moments of temptation. Set hard limits on borrowing amounts relative to income, assets, or repayment capacity. Determining a maximum threshold prevents overextension and ensures that debt remains manageable even under unexpected circumstances. These limits should be adhered to strictly, without exceptions for convenience or desire, reinforcing discipline and long-term security. Create a formal evaluation checklist for every potential loan. Include questions that assess necessity, potential returns, alignment with goals, repayment feasibility, and alternative funding options. This process forces deliberate reflection and reduces the likelihood of emotionally driven choices. Objective criteria replace impulse with analysis and clarity. Introduce a waiting period before finalizing any borrowing decision. A mandatory pause, such as 48 to 72 hours, allows emotions to subside and rational analysis to take precedence. Time creates distance, enabling more accurate assessment of need versus desire. Decisions made under calm, deliberate consideration are far less likely to result in regret. Develop a system to track motivations behind each borrowing decision. Document why the loan is being considered, expected outcomes, and anticipated benefits. Reviewing these notes before approval reinforces accountability and ensures alignment with established rules. Reflection transforms impulsive thinking into conscious planning. Limit access to borrowing tools that trigger impulsive behavior. Avoid using credit cards or online loan applications without first completing a structured evaluation. Removing immediate access reduces the likelihood of spontaneous borrowing decisions that bypass reason and create avoidable stress. Establish consequences for breaching borrowing rules. Accountability measures, whether internal commitments or external oversight, reinforce adherence. Knowing that deviation triggers review, adjustment, or delayed privileges strengthens discipline and discourages emotional decision-making. Prioritize long-term objectives over short-term satisfaction. Recognize that immediate desires rarely outweigh the compounded benefits of careful, strategic borrowing. Anchoring decisions in future goals reduces vulnerability to fleeting impulses and strengthens financial resilience. Integrate financial education into the decision-making process. Understanding interest, compounding, repayment schedules, and opportunity costs empowers rational analysis. Knowledge diminishes the influence of emotion by replacing uncertainty with clarity, enabling confident, intentional borrowing. Assess emotional triggers that lead to impulsive borrowing. Stress, social comparison, boredom, or fear often drive unnecessary loans. Identifying these triggers allows the implementation of strategies such as delaying decisions, consulting trusted advisors, or redirecting attention toward productive activities. Awareness converts reactive behavior into deliberate action. Use accountability partners to reinforce strict borrowing rules. Sharing intentions with a mentor, friend, or financial advisor creates external oversight and adds pressure to comply with pre-established boundaries. This social reinforcement strengthens self-control and ensures adherence even during moments of temptation. Separate borrowing decisions from emotional contexts. Avoid making financial commitments during periods of stress, celebration, or social influence. Emotional states distort judgment and increase the risk of choices that conflict with long-term interests. Ensuring a neutral, rational environment supports clarity and prevents costly mistakes. Review past borrowing experiences for lessons. Analyze instances where emotion influenced decisions and identify patterns, triggers, and outcomes. Document insights and integrate them into updated rules. Learning from experience strengthens the framework and prevents repetition of avoidable errors. Automate or schedule review processes for potential loans. Creating structured procedures minimizes reliance on spur-of-the-moment judgment. Predefined steps for evaluation, consultation, and waiting periods reinforce discipline and reduce susceptibility to impulse. Consistency in process ensures rationality in decision-making. Maintain a separate emergency fund to reduce emotional pressure. Financial safety nets minimize the sense of urgency that often triggers impulsive borrowing. When basic needs are covered independently, decisions regarding additional debt are less likely to be reactive and more likely to be strategic. Developmental strategies to resist external pressure. Marketing, peer influence, or social expectation can induce emotional borrowing. Training yourself to pause, evaluate, and defer response strengthens resolve and reinforces adherence to strict rules. Awareness of influence enhances self-control. Focus on opportunity cost before borrowing. Consider what must be sacrificed or delayed to accommodate debt repayment. Evaluating trade-offs in terms of time, energy, and alternative investments ensures decisions remain rational and aligned with strategic objectives. Conscious consideration prevents emotion-driven shortcuts. Regularly audit borrowing decisions for adherence to established rules. Self-assessment identifies gaps, lapses, or areas requiring stricter enforcement. Continuous monitoring strengthens habit formation, reinforces discipline, and ensures that emotional impulses are consistently checked. Reinforce discipline through visualization of long-term consequences. Imagine the impact of unnecessary debt on cash flow, goals, and stress levels. Clarity about potential outcomes motivates restraint and strengthens commitment to rational borrowing principles. Recognize that avoiding emotional borrowing is a practice, not a one-time achievement. Continuous vigilance, reflection, and adherence to rules cultivate resilience, reinforce strategic thinking, and maintain freedom from impulsive financial behavior. Over time, disciplined patterns become automatic, creating a sustainable framework for borrowing that supports growth, stability, and freedom rather than stress. By establishing strict rules, creating objective criteria, and implementing reflective processes, emotional borrowing is minimized, and financial decisions become deliberate and empowering. Each loan becomes a conscious tool for strategic growth rather than a reaction to temporary impulses. Strength, clarity, and discipline transform borrowing from a potential vulnerability into a controlled, purposeful mechanism that advances long-term goals while protecting both peace of mind and financial stability. Chapter 17: The increase income streams to reduce repayment pressure. Increasing income streams is one of the most effective strategies to reduce repayment pressure and strengthen financial resilience. Relying solely on a single source of income leaves borrowers vulnerable to unexpected changes, delays, or emergencies. Expanding earnings creates flexibility, enhances cash flow, and allows for more strategic management of loans without sacrificing daily stability or long-term goals. Multiple income streams act as a buffer, making repayment obligations manageable and creating opportunities for faster debt reduction, while simultaneously supporting investments in growth and skill development. Begin by evaluating current income sources and identifying areas for expansion. Consider freelance work, part-time opportunities, consulting, or leveraging existing skills in side ventures. Assess which activities align with strengths, experience, and available time. Choosing complementary streams ensures that new efforts are sustainable and additive rather than overwhelming. Explore passive income opportunities alongside active earnings. Investments in dividend-paying stocks, rental properties, or online digital products can generate returns with minimal daily effort. While initial setup requires work and sometimes capital, the long-term benefit reduces dependency on a primary income source and allows more consistent loan repayment without financial strain. Invest in skill development that directly increases earning potential. Courses, certifications, and practical training can open doors to higher paying opportunities or entrepreneurial ventures. Loans that fund these activities serve as strategic tools, but the added income must be managed responsibly to maximize repayment capacity and long-term returns. Diversify income sources to protect against volatility. Avoid relying entirely on a single side venture, seasonal work, or market-dependent investment. Spread efforts across multiple avenues so that the underperformance of one stream does not compromise your ability to meet obligations. Diversification increases stability and reduces anxiety associated with repayment deadlines. Track income meticulously across all streams. Record amounts, sources, frequency, and associated expenses. Monitoring ensures clarity and allows for accurate projections of repayment ability. Awareness of total inflows supports strategic allocation, enabling prioritization of high-interest loans or opportunities with greater leverage. Prioritize high-return activities that offer both skill enhancement and income. Side projects that develop marketable abilities simultaneously increase revenue potential and long-term career value. Combining learning with earning multiplies the effect of effort and ensures that additional work contributes meaningfully to financial stability. Leverage digital platforms to expand reach and opportunity. Freelancing sites, e-commerce platforms, or content creation channels provide scalable income potential. Online opportunities allow flexibility, adaptability, and access to a broader audience, supporting growth without geographic limitations. Strategic use of technology enhances both earning and repayment capacity. Create a disciplined allocation system for additional income. Determine a fixed percentage of new earnings to direct toward loan repayment. Consistent allocation reinforces repayment habits, accelerates debt reduction, and prevents newfound income from being absorbed entirely by discretionary spending. Discipline amplifies the benefit of additional earnings. Explore collaboration or joint ventures to expand revenue potential. Partnering with others on projects or businesses can reduce risk, share resources, and increase earnings efficiency. Leveraging complementary skills creates opportunities that would be difficult to achieve individually, providing added cash flow for loan management. Utilize time strategically to balance multiple streams. Allocate effort efficiently, focusing on activities with the highest return on investment. Avoid overcommitment by evaluating the relative value of each income opportunity. Effective time management ensures sustainable productivity without sacrificing quality or health. Consider recurring revenue models. Subscription services, retainers, or automated product sales provide predictable cash flow, reducing uncertainty and smoothing repayment planning. Predictability strengthens confidence and allows for long-term strategies to optimize both borrowing and financial growth. Implement continuous evaluation and adjustment. Regularly review which income streams are most effective, which require additional effort, and which may no longer be viable. Redirect resources to optimize results, ensuring maximum contribution to repayment capacity while maintaining balance and sustainability. Build networks that expand earning opportunities. Connections in professional, social, and industry contexts often lead to projects, clients, or partnerships. Strategic networking enhances visibility, credibility, and access to additional income sources, supporting both financial flexibility and skill development. Use windfalls, bonuses, or unexpected income for targeted repayment. Rather than spending these funds on discretionary items, allocate them to reduce high-interest obligations or accelerate elimination schedules. This strategic application of extra earnings strengthens momentum and reinforces responsible financial behavior. Balance risk and reward when exploring new income avenues. Evaluate the sustainability, reliability, and potential returns of each opportunity before committing resources. Strategic selection reduces exposure to failure while maximizing contributions to repayment capacity. Risk management ensures that additional income strengthens rather than destabilizes finances. Leverage existing assets to create supplementary income. Renting property, sharing equipment, or monetizing knowledge and skills can generate cash without significant new investment. Efficient use of current resources increases revenue while minimizing cost and risk. Maintain focus on consistency. Sporadic income boosts are valuable but insufficient for reliable repayment. Sustained effort over time across multiple streams compounds results and stabilizes cash flow, creating confidence and reducing pressure associated with loan obligations. Integrate automation where possible. Payment systems, recurring product sales, or passive investment returns reduce administrative load and ensure consistent inflows. Automation increases efficiency, protects against missed opportunities, and supports a disciplined approach to managing multiple revenue streams. Reinvest portions of additional income into further income-generating opportunities. Each incremental investment enhances capacity, skill, or market reach, creating a compounding effect. Strategic reinvestment amplifies earnings potential while maintaining focus on repayment and financial growth. Reflect periodically on the alignment of income streams with goals, ensure that each source contributes to long-term objectives, strengthens financial stability, or enhances skill. Eliminating ineffective or distracting ventures allows focus on high-impact activities that reduce repayment pressure sustainably. By intentionally creating, diversifying, and managing multiple income streams, repayment pressure diminishes while financial control strengthens. Each additional source of earnings increases flexibility, reduces reliance on a single income, and accelerates the path toward debt freedom. Discipline, strategic planning, and consistent action transform borrowed funds from a source of stress into a platform for growth, empowerment, and lasting financial stability. Chapter 18. Learn basic contracts to prevent costly mistakes. Learning the basics of contracts is essential to protecting yourself from financial mistakes, misunderstandings, and legal complications. Contracts are more than paperwork. They are binding agreements that define obligations, rights, and consequences. Many people take loans without fully understanding the terms, and this lack of comprehension can lead to unnecessary costs, penalties, or disputes. By gaining a practical understanding of contract fundamentals, you empower yourself to negotiate better terms, avoid pitfalls, and make informed financial decisions. Start by familiarizing yourself with key components of any loan contract. Essential elements include the principal amount, interest rate, repayment schedule, fees, penalties for late payments, and conditions for early repayment. Understanding these components ensures that you know exactly what you are committing to and prevents surprises after signing. Pay attention to the interest structure. Different loans have varying methods of interest calculation, including fixed, variable, and compound interest. Recognizing how interest accrues allows you to calculate total repayment accurately and compare loan options. Awareness of interest methods prevents underestimating costs and enables strategic repayment planning. Understand all fees and charges associated with the loan. Origination fees, administrative costs, prepayment penalties, and late fees can add significant expense. By identifying and quantifying these charges upfront, you can assess whether the loan aligns with your financial strategy and avoid unexpected financial strain. Learn the significance of repayment terms. Frequency of payments, due dates, and grace periods directly impact cash flow management. Awareness of these details allows you to plan effectively, ensuring timely payments while avoiding penalties and maintaining a positive credit record. Familiarize yourself with default clauses. Contracts typically outline conditions under which failure to pay constitutes default and the resulting consequences. Knowing these terms allows you to maintain compliance, seek remedies, or renegotiate before violations occur. Understanding default provisions reduces risk and supports informed financial behavior. Identify clauses regarding collateral and security. Some loans require assets to be pledged as security. Understanding what is at stake in case of non-payment prevents unexpected losses and enables better risk assessment. Awareness of collateral obligations encourages prudent borrowing aligned with your risk tolerance. Review early repayment conditions. Many contracts include provisions for paying off loans before the scheduled term, which may carry benefits or penalties. Understanding these options allows you to create strategies for accelerated repayment, reduce interest costs, and retain control over financial obligations. Learn about legal terminology in contracts. Words like obligation, indemnity, covenant, and liability appear frequently and carry specific implications. Gaining basic familiarity with these terms enables precise comprehension, prevents misinterpretation, and facilitates confident negotiation. Knowledge reduces vulnerability to unfavorable clauses. Practice reading contracts carefully and systematically. Avoid rushing through documents, skipping sections, or relying solely on verbal assurances. Each clause serves a purpose, and overlooking details can result in unintended commitments. Methodical reading ensures you understand rights, responsibilities, and potential risks. Verify the clarity of terms. Ambiguity in contracts can be exploited or cause disputes. Ensuring that language is precise and unambiguous protects your interests. Seek clarification or request modifications if necessary to remove vagueness or contradictory statements. Clarity prevents miscommunication and strengthens decision-making confidence. Develop the habit of questioning terms. If any condition seems unclear, ask for explanation. Understanding the rationale behind interest rates, fees, or repayment conditions empowers you to negotiate or make alternative choices. Questioning demonstrates diligence and protects against mistakes caused by assumptions or incomplete understanding. Keep records of all communications and documents related to the loan. Written records provide evidence of agreements, modifications, or clarifications. Proper documentation prevents disputes, supports accountability, and allows for reference if any inconsistencies arise. Organization of information strengthens control over financial commitments. Learn about borrower rights. Laws and regulations protect consumers in lending situations. Knowing your rights ensures that lenders adhere to legal standards and prevents exploitation. Awareness of legal protections enhances confidence when reviewing or signing contracts. Consider seeking professional guidance for complex agreements. Financial advisors, accountants, or legal consultants can provide insight, clarify obligations, and suggest improvements. Expert guidance reduces risk, enhances understanding, and allows informed negotiation, ensuring that contracts work in your favor rather than against you. Evaluate consequences of missed obligations. Understand both financial and legal ramifications of late payments or breaches. Knowledge of consequences allows proactive planning to avoid penalties and preserves creditworthiness. Being aware of potential risks encourages disciplined repayment and strategic planning. Analyze contract flexibility. Determine whether terms allow adjustments in case of income changes, emergencies, or other unforeseen circumstances. Flexible arrangements can prevent undue stress and provide options when circumstances shift. Knowing flexibility levels ensures better alignment with your financial capacity. Practice negotiating terms before signing. Many contracts are not immutable, and lenders often allow modifications in interest, fees, or repayment schedules. Confident negotiation based on understanding strengthens your position, reduces costs, and ensures the loan supports long-term objectives. Negotiation is an essential skill for financial empowerment. Understand the duration and maturity of the loan. Knowing the total repayment period and how early or late payments affect the timeline allows for strategic planning. Clear comprehension of timelines prevents misalignment between obligations and cash flow, reducing pressure and avoiding surprises. Integrate contract knowledge with overall financial planning. Assess how each loan fits into your broader budget, investment plans, and income streams. Alignment ensures that borrowing supports growth rather than creating strain. Contracts should be evaluated not in isolation, but as part of a holistic financial strategy. Regularly revisit and review contracts. Circumstances change, and periodic reassessment can identify opportunities for renegotiation, early repayment, or refinancing. Active engagement with contracts keeps obligations manageable, optimizes outcomes, and prevents complacency that leads to costly mistakes. Applying basic contract knowledge consistently empowers you to make informed, strategic, and disciplined borrowing decisions. It reduces vulnerability to hidden fees, misunderstandings, and exploitation. Understanding terms, rights, and obligations allows for confident negotiation, efficient repayment, and alignment with long-term financial goals. Proficiency in contracts transforms loans from potential hazards into structured tools that advance learning, earning, and stability. By committing to the deliberate study and application of contract principles, you protect resources, reduce risk, and strengthen decision-making. This approach cultivates financial discipline, enhances accountability, and ensures that every borrowing action contributes positively to growth, capability, and peace of mind. Knowledge of contracts is not merely technical, it is a cornerstone of responsible financial empowerment. Chapter Align borrowing choices with long-term life values. Aligning borrowing choices with long-term life values is a fundamental practice for achieving sustainable financial health and personal fulfillment. Every loan you take should reflect not only immediate needs or opportunities, but also your deeper goals, priorities, and principles. Borrowing without considering your values can lead to decisions that create stress, compromise integrity, or divert resources from what truly matters. When loans are aligned with your life vision, they become tools for growth, empowerment, and long-term stability rather than sources of regret or distraction. Start by clarifying your core life values. Identify what matters most, whether it is financial security, education, family well-being, entrepreneurship, health, or personal freedom. These values serve as a compass for decision-making, providing a clear framework to assess whether any borrowing aligns with your overarching goals. Values create a lens through which each financial choice can be objectively evaluated. Evaluate potential loans against these core values. Ask whether the loan contributes to your long-term objectives or merely satisfies a short-term desire. For example, borrowing to invest in education or business opportunities aligns with growth-oriented values, whereas borrowing for luxury items or impulsive purchases may conflict with financial discipline and long-term security. This alignment ensures that every debt taken serves a higher purpose. Consider the impact of borrowing on your personal mission and responsibilities. Loans should not compromise your ability to meet essential obligations, maintain independence, or pursue meaningful projects. Borrowing should enhance your capacity to live according to your principles rather than create pressure that forces compromise or sacrifice. Set boundaries around borrowing decisions based on these values. Define strict criteria for when, how, and why you will take loans. Boundaries provide clarity and prevent emotional impulses, peer influence, or temporary needs from steering decisions in directions that conflict with your life vision. Clear rules reinforce integrity and consistent behavior over time. Incorporate long-term planning into borrowing choices. Anticipate how a loan will affect your finances, personal growth, and lifestyle several years into the future. Consider whether repayment schedules, interest obligations, and potential outcomes support your desired trajectory. Strategic planning prevents short-term convenience from undermining long-term success. Reflect on the consequences of misaligned borrowing. Debt that conflicts with values often leads to stress, regret, or unnecessary compromise. Recognizing these risks strengthens motivation to prioritize purposeful borrowing and fosters mindfulness about each financial commitment. Understanding consequences enhances decision-making and accountability. Prioritize loans that generate long-term benefits. Borrowing to acquire skills, increase earning potential, or invest in assets that appreciate over time ensures alignment with growth-oriented values. Each loan should create tangible progress toward your vision rather than merely providing temporary satisfaction. Purpose-driven borrowing creates momentum and reinforces self-discipline. Use visualization to maintain clarity on your values. Imagine the outcomes of borrowing aligned with versus contrary to your principles. This exercise highlights the long-term advantages of disciplined choices and the potential setbacks of impulsive or misaligned decisions. Visualization strengthens resolve and sharpens focus on purposeful action. Evaluate lifestyle choices in conjunction with borrowing. Loans should not enable patterns of consumption that conflict with your core objectives. Consider whether the debt supports meaningful experiences or undermines your ability to allocate resources to priorities that matter most. Responsible borrowing respects both financial and personal boundaries. Assess the opportunity cost of borrowing. Every loan represents a commitment of future income, time, and resources. Weighing the cost against alternative uses aligned with your values ensures that decisions reinforce rather than detract from long-term priorities. Awareness of opportunity cost encourages deliberate and strategic choices. Integrate ethical and moral considerations. Borrowing should be consistent with personal integrity and societal responsibility. Consider whether debt obligations could create undue burden on others or involve practices that conflict with ethical standards. Aligning financial choices with moral principles strengthens personal confidence and trustworthiness. Maintain accountability through documentation and reflection. Record why each loan was taken, its intended purpose, and the expected alignment with long-term goals. Regularly review these notes to ensure consistency with values and adjust strategies as necessary. Documentation provides clarity and reinforces intentionality in borrowing. Seek guidance from mentors or advisors who understand your values. Their perspective can offer clarity, prevent missteps, and help identify loans that enhance your objectives. Trusted input reinforces alignment and provides practical insight into decisions that are both strategically and ethically sound. Develop patience and discipline when considering loans. Immediate opportunities or pressures may tempt deviation from your values. Maintaining self-control and waiting for options that truly align with long-term objectives prevents reactive decisions and supports financial and personal integrity. Ensure that loan terms themselves support alignment with values. Favor agreements that offer transparency, fair interest rates, manageable repayment schedules, and flexibility in case circumstances change. Contracts should enable your life plan rather than constrain it, and careful review ensures that obligations reinforce rather than contradict principles. Incorporate contingency planning into borrowing decisions. Consider scenarios such as unexpected expenses, income fluctuations, or changes in personal priorities. A values-aligned plan anticipates challenges and ensures that debt remains manageable and purposeful under diverse conditions. Preparation strengthens resilience and confidence. Reinforce awareness of alignment during every stage of borrowing. From evaluation and negotiation to repayment and completion, consistently assess whether each step supports your principles and objectives. This conscious reflection prevents gradual drift away from long-term priorities. Regularly revisit life goals to maintain relevance. As circumstances, aspirations, and resources evolve, reassess whether borrowing strategies remain aligned with updated values. Dynamic alignment ensures that debt continues to serve meaningful purposes rather than becoming an outdated or counterproductive commitment. Celebrate alignment when it occurs. Recognizing when loans and financial decisions reflect your core values reinforces positive behavior, strengthens self-discipline, and motivates continued intentionality. Acknowledgement of successful alignment builds confidence and reinforces the habit of values-driven borrowing. Aligning borrowing with long-term life values transforms loans from potential burdens into tools for empowerment. Every financial commitment, when intentionally chosen, contributes to growth, resilience, and the realization of personal priorities. Decisions rooted in values reduce stress, prevent regret, and maximize the impact of financial resources on life goals. Strategic, principled borrowing ensures that obligations serve progress, support well-being, and reinforce long-term vision rather than distract or compromise it. By consistently integrating values into borrowing decisions, you create a framework for financial and personal growth that endures over time. Each loan becomes a deliberate choice that strengthens purpose, preserves freedom, and supports a life aligned with both aspirations and principles. Values-driven borrowing is not only practical but transformative, guiding actions that reinforce both financial stability and meaningful achievement. Chapter 2. Commit to continuous improvement through smarter borrowing decisions. Committing to continuous improvement through smarter borrowing decisions is the cornerstone of long-term financial mastery and personal growth. Borrowing is not simply a transaction, it is an ongoing learning process that requires reflection, adjustment, and disciplined action. Every loan, every repayment, and every financial choice offers an opportunity to evaluate past behavior, refine strategies, and enhance decision-making skills. Approaching borrowing as a continuous improvement practice transforms potential risk into a powerful tool for building resilience, wealth, and confidence. Begin by reviewing each borrowing experience critically. Examine the reasons for taking the loan, the outcomes achieved, and areas where judgment could have been stronger. Honest evaluation highlights patterns of success and exposes tendencies that may have led to unnecessary costs or stress. This reflection is not about assigning blame, but about cultivating awareness and insight. Set specific improvement goals for future borrowing. Determine areas where discipline, timing, evaluation, or negotiation can be enhanced. Goals could include reducing reliance on high-interest loans, improving repayment speed, or seeking more strategic opportunities to leverage borrowed capital. Targeted objectives create a roadmap for growth and ensure that each decision moves you closer to financial mastery. Incorporate feedback loops into your borrowing process. After completing a loan cycle, review performance against expectations. Compare projected costs with actual outcomes, assess the effectiveness of repayment strategies, and analyze the impact on overall financial health. Feedback allows for real-time learning and ensures that mistakes are transformed into actionable lessons. Prioritize learning over immediate convenience. Each borrowing decision should be approached with curiosity and an intent to gain knowledge about personal financial behavior, negotiation tactics, and risk assessment. Viewing every loan as a learning opportunity reduces fear of mistakes and fosters adaptive decision-making that improves over time. Track key metrics consistently. Maintain records of interest rates, repayment timelines, additional fees, and any benefits derived from borrowing. Quantitative analysis provides clarity on which strategies are most effective and which require adjustment. Measurement transforms subjective experience into actionable insight, reinforcing disciplined decision-making. Invest in financial education continuously. Stay informed about lending practices, market trends, and emerging opportunities for strategic borrowing. Knowledge equips you to identify advantageous options, avoid predatory conditions, and optimize repayment schedules. Continuous learning keeps you ahead of potential pitfalls and strengthens confidence in your decisions. Reflect on behavioral triggers that influence borrowing habits. Emotional impulses, social pressures, or overconfidence can distort judgment. Identifying these triggers allows you to implement safeguards such as waiting periods, consultation with mentors, or structured evaluation checklists. Self-awareness converts reactive behavior into intentional, smarter borrowing. Experiment with incremental changes to improve outcomes. Test strategies such as smaller loans to build discipline, accelerated repayment plans to reduce interest, or diversified borrowing to spread risk. Controlled experimentation fosters understanding of what works best for your circumstances and reinforces proactive management. Engage in active problem solving when challenges arise. Unexpected costs, fluctuating income, or missed payments should be addressed promptly with strategic adjustments. Developing a mindset that views obstacles as opportunities for learning and adaptation strengthens resilience and ensures continuous progress in financial competency. Leverage technology to optimize borrowing decisions. Utilize budgeting apps, automated repayment systems, and analytical tools to track obligations and evaluate new opportunities. Technology reduces errors, increases efficiency, and provides insights that inform smarter decisions, ensuring that borrowing aligns with strategic objectives. Seek mentorship and peer feedback regularly. Learning from experienced advisors or peers who have successfully managed debt provides perspective, practical strategies, and accountability. External guidance accelerates growth by highlighting blind spots and reinforcing best practices. Collaboration in learning strengthens both confidence and outcomes. Adopt a long-term perspective on improvement. Each loan is a single data point in a broader pattern of financial behavior. By considering cumulative effects and trends over time, you can make adjustments that have exponential impact on financial stability, repayment capacity, and strategic growth. Patience and persistence are critical components of continuous improvement. Document lessons learned from every borrowing experience. Recording insights, strategies, successes, and missteps creates a reference for future decisions. Written reflection reinforces learning, strengthens accountability, and reduces the likelihood of repeating past mistakes. A personal repository of knowledge accelerates mastery. Integrate strategic planning into every new loan decision. Analyze not just immediate benefits but long-term implications, opportunity costs, and alignment with overarching financial goals. Planning ensures that borrowing contributes to cumulative growth rather than short-term relief, establishing a pattern of intentional, high-value financial action. Reinforce self-discipline through structured routines. Implement consistent practices such as reviewing loan terms before borrowing, scheduling repayments immediately upon receipt of income, and conducting periodic audits of debt obligations. Discipline transforms learned insights into habitual action, making improvement automatic over time. Monitor market conditions to inform smarter borrowing. Interest rates, inflation trends, and economic fluctuations impact the cost and benefit of loans. Staying aware of these factors allows proactive timing, selection of favorable terms, and optimization of financial outcomes. Strategic awareness reduces risk and enhances decision-making effectiveness. Cultivate adaptability in financial strategies. Life circumstances, income patterns, and personal priorities evolve, requiring flexibility in borrowing approaches. Continuously adjusting strategies based on current realities ensures that each decision remains optimal and aligned with goals. Adaptability reinforces resilience and supports continuous improvement. Celebrate incremental progress and milestones. Recognizing improvements in repayment efficiency, negotiation outcomes, or decision-making quality reinforces commitment to ongoing learning. Positive reinforcement strengthens motivation and sustains the momentum of continuous refinement. Commit to integrating lessons into future behavior. Continuous improvement is not simply about acquiring knowledge, but applying insights consistently. Each learning point should inform next steps, influence decisions, and enhance strategic execution. Practical application transforms theoretical understanding into tangible results. Adopt a mindset that views financial growth as a lifelong journey. Smarter borrowing is a skill developed over time through disciplined practice, reflection, and iteration. Embracing continuous improvement ensures that financial decisions evolve alongside personal growth, experience, and changing circumstances. By committing to continuous improvement in borrowing decisions, every loan becomes a calculated step toward mastery rather than a source of uncertainty or stress. Deliberate evaluation, learning from outcomes, strategic planning, and disciplined execution create a feedback loop that enhances judgment, increases financial control, and reduces repayment pressure. Smarter borrowing decisions compound over time, building both financial stability and the confidence to pursue long-term objectives. Continuous improvement transforms borrowing from reactive behavior into a deliberate, empowering practice. Each decision is informed, intentional, and aligned with strategic goals. By cultivating reflection, learning, and disciplined action, borrowing becomes a tool for growth, resilience, and sustainable achievement. Every step taken with insight strengthens the foundation for smarter financial decisions, long-term stability, and meaningful life progress.